Welcome to the All Angles Podcast, Sports Edition Day. This is our Friday episode for the October 3rd. Already into October, and for a lot of people, you would think it's pretty early into the year, pretty early into the season. But today we're going to tackle the whole concept of mental health with coaching, with myself and Cookie talking about personal experiences, what led to me leaving coaching, except for like private lessons and stuff. And kind of what's on the other side of things that people don't realize is there, because a lot of times people see coaches, you think you're just hired to be a coach, and then here's your money and go do this and that. And there's so much around everything. And my opinion on it is pretty harsh on things just because of events. But, you know, with a lot of the teams out there and leagues out there, it definitely differs as per level, and there's more transparency in a lot of things. But you know, at the same time, the quick synopsis is, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how much you're doing or how good you're doing, people aren't going to have an issue fucking you over. My coaching career started in Florida with USF and UCF club hockey, ACH 83, but I was literally just kind of a volunteer there, just wanted to help and have fun. But the real fun began when I moved to Texas and when I met Cookie, and we've already told the story of how that all happened with me running gyms and just wanting to stay in hockey. And my first story about this, and the reason it goes into mental health, is we'll get into that, is you know, I was just basically a volunteer assistant with the Texas Brahmas in the Western States Hockey League. I came and I was like, hey, can I just come and help out? It was a fun league. It was a really good team. It was a really good league. And I learned real quickly that if you have an opinion, it's best not to say it. And, you know, I just saw things that actually had nothing to do with me when I made the comment. And I think I posted something online. So let this be a lesson to anybody. Careful what you post online. And I think I posted something online and I said, you know, it's something I said, people were being pretty frugal, and frugal was the exact word I used. I didn't say cheap. I didn't say anything like derogatory. I just said frugal. And it was quickly shared with the owner of the Brahmas, which in turn, his reaction, instead of having an adult conversation with me, Frank, the owner and manager of the rink or whatever, was basically like, he's banned from the rink. Like, I wasn't even allowed to set foot in the building anymore because I called him frugal, which he was. But, you know, it's when you're a coach, you know, like I said, it's not all that. When you're a coach, it's kind of like being a teacher. You're not there for the paychecks, especially at the lower levels. You're there because you love the sport. You're dedicated to helping these players grow as athletes and as people. Cookie and I said whenever we had our welcome meetings was, we don't want to make you better hockey players. We also want to make you better people when you leave here than when you got here. And we mean that. And, you know, you hear us talk about all the time, we love celebrating the wins. And a lot of blood, sweat, and tears goes into it. And the people who are signing the checks, I'm coming to learn at certain levels, not all levels, truly don't give a shit about you. You're a part of an operation that they're doing for their own, whether it be profit or pleasure or just bragging rights, so they can go and say, I own this or I run that.
You're a disposable commodity.
Absolutely. But you know, at the end of the day, like they're all just people with frail egos. And I've seen a world of difference at that at the professional level. And then you see a difference in that when you get to the North American Hockey League, likely a lot of the teams in the NCDC and up. It's different. It's very business driven, which you have to remember, these teams are a business first, but the people working for you are humans and they're people and they have livelihoods. But that's just oftentimes looked over and not cared about. And this episode, Cookie and I are going to share some stories about what it's been like coaching, the effect it's had on mental health, which is a big thing. And it is October 10th is National Mental Health Day. So as usual, me and Cookie are kind of right on timing with everything. But, you know, it's something that when you think it won't happen, it will happen, and it does happen. And there might be, huh?
And it did.
Yeah. And, you know, there's going to be someone who's like, oh, shucks, this stinks for you. But it's real easy to pretend to be really upset for somebody else when your paycheck's not affected.
Yeah. And I'll just kind of cut in here to kind of give an idea of what precipitated this conversation. Because if anybody watched our non-sports episode on Tuesday, we were going to do something kind of fun, and I was going to make John watch cricket highlights and react to it. And then, so we recorded that on Sunday of this week. On Monday afternoon. So for those that don't know, I'm sure I've brought it up here before. For those that don't know, my day job, just to help pay the bills, I work part-time. Over the summer it was full-time, but now, we'll get into this, but I'll say now it's part-time. I work for an auto parts supplier as a delivery driver here in Springfield, Missouri. And that's just because as an assistant coach in the ACHA, and this isn't a big surprise, but as an assistant coach in the ACHA, I was a part-time coach. So I got part-time pay. About 2 months ago, I lost. So when I first started at Drury University a couple of years ago, I was also given the title of sports information director for non-NCAA sports. So I essentially had 2 part-time jobs at the university. And, but again, it wasn't massive pay. So I was still doing the auto parts thing. So I essentially had 3 part-time jobs, if you want to look at it that way. About 2 months ago, maybe it's 3 now, everything's kind of coming together, especially with what's happened this week. That non-NCAA SID job became, for lack of a better term, I don't know if this is a term we use in this country, but it, I know they use it in the UK, but whatever. I think people understand it. That job became redundant, meaning I wasn't really fired from it. It just, they moved that job to someone else and basically gave that other person multiple jobs instead of having things kind of spread out a little bit to where frankly, the quality would have been better. They gave it all to, just a couple of people. So there was 2 or 3 people in the athletic department. They, basically were handed a bunch of extra jobs on top of what they were already doing.
And I'm sure they didn't see any increase.
Oh no, I can guarantee you they didn't. So that happened just 2 or 3 months ago. So I was already down a job. At the time, it wasn't the end of the world because I had the job at the warehouse, and over the summer it was full time. But I was also still getting paid as an assistant coach for the hockey team. And then on Monday of this week, which would have been September 29th, I got off work at 2:00, which is my normal part-time hours. And at about 3:00, I got a phone call. And it was not a good phone call. It basically said, and I don't have all the details yet because I got to hear all this in a way secondhand. I didn't hear it directly from the athletic department. I had to, unfortunately, and we'll get into this too, but I had to unfortunately hear this from what John knows. I mean, John's on this list as well, but one of my best and closest friends in the world, from Jeremy Law, who you've heard us talk about all the time. He's the head coach, but he's one of my closest friends for a couple decades now, and he's the one that had to tell me. And I don't know the reasoning behind him being the one to tell me. Apparently I was given the option, as he said, to talk to the athletic director directly. But at that point, what did it matter? He was the one that had to tell me that I was no longer a paid assistant coach. And just to kind of, I don't know what the proper term is, but I'll say preface this. It is apparently, I'm not the only one. It's my understanding, again, I've got this a little bit secondhand. Admittedly, Jeremy was a little rattled when he told me this, so he didn't quite remember all the details after hearing my situation. He was pretty rattled, knowing he was going to have to be the one to, tell one of his closest friends that he was no longer getting paid and was being moved to volunteer status. But it's my understanding that there are no more, and I'm assuming this means non-NCAA sports, not the NCAA side of things, because that would be even more shocking, I think, than my situation. But it would appear as of Monday, there are no more paid assistants in non-NCAA sports on campus. And that's roughly, I think there's 13 teams now, 12 to 13. There were more last year. They cut a couple after last season. So that's a lot of people that are in my same situation. So Monday was an incredibly rough day. It's been a rough week, and it's only Wednesday as we're recording this. Monday was tough, though. That conversation with Jeremy was tough. You don't, I mean, to have to hear that from, and he didn't want to be the one to have to tell me. I know that. I mean, he's gutted, and I immediately reached out to my boss at the warehouse to move back to full time because I have to pay bills, obviously. And even that's going to be a bit of a stretch at this point, but I'll be able to pull it off. I know I will. So, you know, friends and family, don't stress about that. But cutting back on a lot of stuff for sure. But yeah, it was a difficult conversation. He's gutted. You know, we've had more conversations since then. It's an off week for us, and they're putting in that damn pink ice. So our practice schedule was changed. We only have 2 practices this week, Tuesday, Thursday, and it's at a later time. Technically, I could have gone to Tuesday's practice. I chose not to. I was not in a good headspace, which is part of what we're going to talk about today. I was just not. I needed a day. I'll see the guys tomorrow on Thursday. So by the time this comes out, I will have seen the players. But yeah, it's another, and you know, I'll have family members that'll, you know, very quietly say, maybe I told you so, or maybe I should have gotten out of this a long time ago, but not directly, because they understand my passion for the sport. And even with what's gone on this week, my passion for the sport hasn't changed. But I will say, and you know, John's going to get into kind of his list over the years and what's gone on. I'll do the same. I just wanted to give an idea of what's precipitated moving up this conversation, because we've discussed having this talk for a while now, you know, the mental health side of things in coaching. And with what happened this week, I messaged you last night and said, we need to do it now, because that's where I'm at, frankly. And yeah, so I don't know what my plan is right now. And I won't know by the end of this conversation. I will see the boys tomorrow night, Thursday, again, before, you know, that'll happen before this episode comes out. I will see the boys and get a chance to talk to them. It'll be the last time I see them in a practice, unless something changes for the rest of the season, because I can't, with the way our schedule is, I can't make it to practice anymore. And games are up in the air just because I don't know how I'm going to be able to show up to a game if I'm not at a single practice, especially as the guy that's in charge, you know, at the moment anyways, of being the one who decides which of my defensemen don't dress that night. And that's just not fair to anybody for me to be making decisions like that when I'm not even there for practice. So yeah, it's been a tough week, but it's in a long line of kind of I will say this, and I think John will know what I mean when I say this. At least I think you will. I am the unluckiest lucky coach I think I know, because of all the crap I've gone through, and yet pretty much everywhere I've been, there's been success, which makes this whole thing even stranger when I go through my list here in a little bit. And the success that's come along the way, followed directly by, well, big gulps, huh? See you later. So, yeah. But I will say this. I told John as we were getting started here, the one thing I will continue to ride on, and, you know, there's essentially 8 to 9 teams I'm going to talk about. John's talked about one. My Brahma situation was a little different than John's, but of the 8 teams now, and there's been more. This is just the higher level, the junior teams, the AAA teams, and now college. Of those teams, I'm proud to say, through all the crap that's gone on, I still to this day have never been fired from a job. And it's going to be nuts to say that when you hear what's going on, but you know, I've never been fired. Some have been voluntary, most have not, but they haven't. It's been weird circumstances almost every time. So anyways, that's kind of where I wanted to get this started on my end, and then we'll kind of probably play a little ping pong back and forth of our careers as we go.
Yeah, and it's like kind of touching. I know you're not going to talk about it much, and I know like the people you talk to aren't even the ones responsible. The things when you told me that, like the first things that popped into my head that I didn't get is like, because I remember before the season started, you were stressing because your budget wasn't yet approved.
Well, no, it took a while because and that also made our schedule take longer than expected to announce. And I'm not going to get deep into the budgetary stuff. Maybe there'll come a time for that. It is an issue. I mean, there's just no denying it. But I have my personal thoughts on the whole situation. I will not sit here and speak for Jeremy at all. So before anybody wants me to get into his side of things, I'm not going to. That's again, I'm as close to him as anybody I've ever been in my life, and I'm not going to speak for him.
Yeah, and I mean, it didn't not affect him, but also like that's the thing is when I bring up the budget, it's like I assume the budget includes the pay for you guys as well. It's all part of a budget for a team. It's ice. And
Yeah,
equipment.
I'll be just to be brutally honest. Other than the fact that the actual number of the budget and what's included in that's not my purview. I don't see all that, partially because I'm not there.
Right.
I'm somewhere else during the day. Jeremy's the one that kind of handles the majority of that, but we talk about it all the time. And I don't know. Let me put it this way. It was my understanding when we talk about our budget being approved and the number they give us in our budget for the season, that's not including whatever my pay was, whatever his salary was. They don't include that in what they hand us as a number to go travel and get equipment and
Right.
reps and league fees and all that kind of stuff.
Because the thing about it is too is
by the way, to interrupt real quick, and this is how this is the relationship Jeremy have, because we're I've said it already a million times. We're close, but at the same time, I don't even know what his salary is. I don't need to know. That's his personal business. That's fine. So that's his personal business. So I don't even know where that would fall if they were to give us the full number, including salaries. I don't know. I wouldn't know what percentage it was,
Right.
but I do know the number they give us does not include those.
Yeah, and the gripe I have is like you go into a season and the school knows, like it's not like the school's ignorant to what you guys' role is and what your pay is and stuff like that. So it's not like there was a thing a couple weeks ago to say, hey, here's the issues we're already seeing. And so therefore, especially when it comes down to being non-varsity sports, there's no contracts really. I mean, there is, but there isn't.
Yeah, no, my mom asked me that the other day. Don't you have a contract? No, I haven't signed a contract.
Yeah. And so it's like, that's their opportunity to kind of take advantage of a situation. And mind you, I'm going to be a lot more harsh on this situation. Cookie's the one involved in it. I'm giving my outside perspective.
Yeah, and I do want to say something and I understand why you will do that. Number one, you're opinionated to begin with, and you're going to defend me and Jeremy. I mean, that's just how you are. But I do want to say this publicly, and I have no doubt this will not come back to bite me in the ass. But I'd be stunned if it would. I'm absolutely going to say this publicly. Our athletic director, I love. I cared. I mean, she's just doing her job.
Yeah.
She's getting the pressure from above. And frankly, I like the new school president too, but it's just the situation we're in. The problem I have is the timing. That's probably the biggest. And then
that's my biggest thing.
I had another kind of slap in the face yesterday, but the timing, like we're stuck at this point. And we have no desire to leave our boys by any means.
Mm-hmm.
It's our family. Those guys are our family. But in some ways, it's kind of, well, at least for me, again, Jeremy's in a different scenario. But for me, anyways, I kind of have to leave the boys at this point. And I'm not saying physically leave Springfield, although that's not completely out of the question at this point. I'm just going to throw that out there. But I can't be at practice. I've essentially been kind of separated because I can't be there.
Well, you have to live. Like you have to be able to live.
Yeah, like I said, going to the situation I'm in now, it's going to be tight, but I'm going to make it work. No question about it. So I don't want, like I said, I don't want friends and family to worry about me. I'm going to be okay.
Right.
But it's, but I do, she's great. She's a former coach. She understands it. When I got the slap in the face yesterday, she was pissed too. Mm-hmm. So I told John this. I got an email, and the woman who sent me the email is the sweetest woman in the world. She felt awful. She probably didn't even want to send it, but she had to based on, you know, her bosses. And it was so sorry to hear about what happened. And I know she's genuine. She's just the sweetest woman ever.
Which honestly, she wouldn't have to say that. I mean, if she's just doing duty, she could say, "This is what you have to fill out." End of story. So
no, she's the best. Everybody loves her. And again, as you can tell, I'm not giving any names at this point, but she said, she goes, "There's a form attached you need to fill out, and then there's some training you have to do to be approved as a volunteer coach." I'm sorry. I have to be approved to be a volunteer coach after I've already worked here for essentially 2.5 years as a paid coach, and I've been doing this for, you know, overall for 25 years or whatever it's been.
Well, I mean, heck, you were in the SID's office before that. So,
I'm like, are you kidding me? But and then the athletic director found out about it and was livid and was like, they can't even give this guy 24 hours
to like process.
What the hell are we doing here? So
And
she was pissed, and I respect that. I mean, again, it's been a hard. We talked about it. It was a hard summer, and it's obviously gotten even harder for me this week. But I'm not going to go against my feelings about, you know, the people I'm like directly in charge. Like I said, the athletic director and those around her, they're good people. They're just doing their job.
Well,
I don't envy them. I don't envy them. I wouldn't take their job no matter what you paid me.
But that's the thing, is it's people that are so far removed from the situation, they don't give a fuck about people. They look at numbers and they're like, oh, well, this and this and this, and they say do this, and that's the way it is for them. Like, they don't give a shit. And that's also, I mean, that is a huge issue in business in general, not in athletics. And the timing thing is what pisses me off the most, because you know, you're 8 games into the season. Who gives a damn about the record? But you guys are 8-0. You guys are a positive light for the school, and the school continues to use the hockey team for athletics marketing for the school. I see it all the time.
Well, and like you said, the timing is the part that's got me. I mean, obviously losing pay has got me really upset. But
the timing part of that, like
timing, if they'd have done this over the summer, my resume is in a position where I could have gotten another job.
You could have got another job, or you could have
nothing open.
Or you could have had something else around there that still allows you to keep your schedule with the team.
Yes,
it would have been harder, but you could have done it, and there is still a chance you can do that. It's just not easy now.
No, it's harder now, but again, Carol and Susan are going to kill me for this, but I'm going to do it publicly. Carol, Susan, I still would love nothing more. I understand your reasoning behind it, but I love you guys, and I love that place. If you want to hire me at Holdfast in the evening, so I can go back to part-time at the warehouse, work until 2, go to practice, then go to the brewery to work, I'm all there for you. I know it's
you're there anyway.
Not now. Can't afford it now, but the weekends are hard, obviously, because of hockey, but and I know that's when you'd like, you know, that's when most people don't want to work and you'd love to have someone there, but I'm going to publicly ask that again, much like on Tuesday, publicly asking for Northwood to finally hire me again.
Yeah, what the heck, Northwood?
Which I got some comments on that post from.
I did. I saw that. That was actually pretty funny.
From Brody and Spearsy. Guys, I'm still waiting.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's like you guys are 8 games into the season. Even if they don't know you, they know enough to know it's like, oh, we know the season started, but you know, and it's like it puts you in a huge bind because you know seasons are rolling everywhere. You know what I mean? This isn't junior hockey anymore where owners are looking to fire somebody at all costs because they love that more than anything. We'll get into that shit. But like, you know,
this is early for any of the earliest any of that's going to happen is January.
Yeah. And it's a real,
and that's a stretch, as you know. So
yeah. And I know it's not your athletics director but it's still a real shitty thing to do. And it's extremely unprofessional. And like, especially you guys do well on fans and you guys do a lot of great things in the community.
Yeah, I will give a little bit of their argument that our attendance has been pretty shit other than opening night. The ticket numbers are low. Obviously the Missouri State games in December are already selling big, but everything else has been.
Right. But what are the, how many home games have you played now? 4?
6.
6? Oh, you've only had the 2 road games? Okay, so 6 still. It's only 6 games.
Yeah, but the numbers have dropped every single game.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it's still
they'll go up. they'll probably go up a little bit this month just because of the pink ice and people are going to be interested. And then at the end of the month, we're wearing special jerseys too. So that'll get people's attention.
But also, that part of the budget was already covered. So you can't use that as what it is. Like, I know the team's got to make money and stuff like that. And I know, you got to be careful. Like,
no, I'm not even being careful because I think I need to explain it a little better because, and again, I'm not going to get into super detail here. And I, you know me, I love you to death for defending Jeremy, and I'm not going to stop you either. But I do want to add a little bit of kind of clarity to so when they do the budget.
Oh, hold on, though. But before you do this, of other non-NCAA sports, nobody's bringing a crowd at all.
Not as far as I know.
You're the only one that's actually doing anything.
Yeah, and I can't truthfully answer that. I don't suspect they are. I mean, there's a few that are definitely not because they're not the kind of sports that are made for that.
Yeah.
You know, bass fishing is not drawing a crowd, and shotgun sports isn't drawing a crowd. But and those are the two coaches that are two of my favorite people on campus. But no, just a little clarity, just so to help your argument for Jeremy and I. When they do the budget, they kind of assumes probably not the right word, but they account for what we think we're going to make in ticket sales, which has been down. We're not on pace for that. And for sponsorships, and sponsorships are down, but that's for everybody. But again, their argument, and I understand their argument. I'm not even going to argue their argument. Their argument is that's, you know, figure it out basically. But no one's spending money right now. I mean, we're in a terrible economic situation in the country, and it just got worse. Again, as we're talking on Wednesday, it just got worse last night. But no, so sponsorships are down. We did there was one sponsorship that we're pretty rattled about, but I'm not going to get into the details on that either. But we lost a $5,000 sponsorship because the same people who did that sponsorship gave over $1 million to the entire athletics department. Well, our argument is, well, over $1 million for the entire athletics department, our 5,000 probably should be included in that. But where I'm going with this is they're expecting certain numbers, so they include that in the budget. And when we're not hitting those, our budget gets a little funky, if you will.
Right. But
and that's where, and admittedly, that's where we're running into some issues. But at the same time, I never thought it would go to the extreme of what happened to me.
And also, it's 8 freaking games. You're 8 games in. You're 8 games into the season. It's October 1st right now. You know what I mean? Like it's jumping the gun. It's an aggressive play, and it's not just you. Like you said, it's likely affecting all the non-varsity sports.
I know, and this is the other part I want to make sure people understand. We're talking about ourselves, our careers, and what's happened with us, and I'm talking about what happened to me this week. I'm not the only one on campus that's dealing with this, as far as assistant coaches and even some head coaches. But yeah, so we're not the only ones. This is a campus-wide thing, and you know the powers that be are doing what they think is right to kind of right the ship on campus, and it may work. You know, for the sake of the university, I hope it does. But people like me are feeling the brunt of it and trying to fix it. And again, at the end of the day, as shitty as it is and as awful as this week's been, and I'm not in a good headspace, I also have to be a realist and understand it is at the end of the day business.
Yeah, but again, like
the timing is what's always going to kill me on this.
Yeah, I mean,
we have no, there's nothing. I mean, I can't
there's no warning. There was no point saying, hey, listen, here's where numbers are.
There's no coaching jobs available right now. And as we talked about, you know, we'll see where my career ends up. I'm not, you know, that many years away from not being on the bench, but at the same time, I am still there. And to find something right now on October 1st is unlikely. Now, if it's January 1st and beyond, yes, but right now, no.
Yeah, but it's, you know, like you said, it's the timing thing, and it's just, you know, it's not a failing program or anything like that. It's just a matter of the part that just really gets under my skin with it all. It's like there was no like, hey, listen, this is falling off. Here's the problems we're having. So let's set this date to make it work because you're a human goddamn being. But instead, they're just like, oh, this isn't worse. And it's literally from the people that make the decision. It's a fuck 'em attitude.
Well, and this is where I'm definitely going to agree with you is that like the situation with the budget is not a secret. I mean, we've known about it. It's been a discussion literally for, well, frankly, for a year. But
That's
because
what you
again,
guys just raised $1,000 for their challenge thing.
yeah, well, we came up $1,300 short of what the projection was.
I thought you guys only had to raise 1,000.
No, our projection was 5,000, and we did 3,700, which is frustrating because the first year we had a program when there was only the one team, we did really well. I can't remember what the number was, but
Between both teams, that was all it was done.
No, between both teams, but you know we don't. And again, there's certain things I'm not going to get in detail on.
Right.
Division 3 did much better on the Champions Challenge than we did, but there are a couple of different reasons behind that, but I'm not going to get into that here. But you know, the budget thing is not. I think the shock for me, because again, the budget thing's not been a secret. I mean, that's been the stress, especially for Jeremy all summer. I mean, I can't even count the number of meetings he's had about it. But like you said, the shock for me was what happened this week was never in our brains as an option. Maybe at the end of the year, if they didn't like us, then fire us. You know, whatever.
Or even at the semester, like say, hey, listen, if this semester it's not there, like, give people time to.
I never ever. Because Jeremy told myself and our trainer who's with us last week that he had, I don't even remember what day he sent it, but sent us text and that he had a meeting on Monday, which wasn't out of the norm. He's had so many meetings at this point. He had a meeting on Monday and we thought it was we knew their budget would be involved because Champions Challenge, we came up short, but we thought it was going to be about something completely different that we're definitely not talking about here. But, and so we told, you know, I kept telling Jeremy, oh, don't worry about it. I mean, yeah, we're gonna get some crap about Champions Challenge, and rightfully so. We didn't do as well as we expected and should have, and it's frustrating. But it is, you know, we can't do anything about it now, other than we have other fundraisers we're going now. We got some cool stuff with a pair of Blues tickets and a hotel stay and things like that people can bid on, and so we have things coming up, but. I was like, yeah, don't sweat it, man. It's going to be the budget and it's going to be this other thing. You're good. Well, couldn't have been more wrong. Could not have been more wrong. And, you know, his 1 hour meeting became a 2 hour meeting. And he called me at 3:00 and I could tell even before he got into it, just from literally like the first word, I could tell it was not good.
Yeah.
It was not good.
It's just it's a shit situation, but kind of like, you know, alluding into the episode, it's not an uncommon one.
No. They're all different, but in some ways the same. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just like there's definitely a huge, and this is probably the same in other sports where I'm only speaking from my time coaching hockey, but there's a lack of human element to people. And you know, sad is what's going on in the world with all of our episodes. We keep going back to humanity and human elements here.
Yeah.
But you know, the first story I'll say is after the Brahmas thing. Like the Brahmas thing, I was getting traction. I was figuring out what juniors was as a coach because I played juniors a long time ago. It's already such a different landscape. And you know, I was just jumping in as a coach and I just thought it'd be cool to coach the team. And then I found I loved coaching. Like those guys are awesome. Like, in fact, that Brahmas team is what made me say, okay, I want to coach. Because, you know, it was cool hearing the guys, especially in the middle of a game. One of the best things you can hear is like when a kid comes back to the bench, if he scored a goal or if he made a play or assisted on something or did something great on special teams, he was like, yeah, that's what we worked in practice. Like when they acknowledged something I taught them paid off in the game to benefit.
Dude, you know as well as I do. Like as a coach, I mean, we like the creative play and all that, and guys get creative and do stuff. But when like a specific thing, like a set play or a face-off play or something that we covered works, like There's nothing better.
It's like at the beginning of the remake of the A-Team movies. Like, I love it when a plan comes together.
It's just the greatest thing.
It is, and especially when the players come back and the players recognize it. They're like,
yes,
and you're like, holy crap, because it sinks it. Because again, junior A hockey, they're 16 to 21 years old. Like they're a little
big dummies.
Yeah, they're a little thick-headed. But
my favorite thing about that age group is the fans that'll see them on the ice, and they look like grown men on the ice, and they're beating and banging on each other. And they'll see them afterwards, and they're like, just kids.
They're kids.
Like, yeah, they are. They're just kids, but they look like grown-ass men on the ice.
Yep. And so, they come back and they say something. You're like, man, like that fuels your soul as a coach. So I was like, okay.
Keep coming back.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, well, I want to coach. And the Brahmas thing, obviously, I got shit kicked. So I took a couple trips, met a couple different owners of other teams, and we interviewed for Cheyenne. And these next two coaches I'm talking about started teams to put their kid on a team. Pathetic, number one. But we started with Cheyenne. I'm not holding back, Cookie. So
no, go for it. The Cheyenne thing.
We started with Cheyenne, and then we were in El Paso for league meetings.
We were in El Paso sitting in a pool. Yeah, but we were sitting in a pool at some random hotel in El Paso with a bottle of Crown Royal Black or something, like some expensive, like the most expensive bottle of Crown Royal there is, sitting at a pool while Lozzie's out there swimming. We're sitting here with the team owner drinking Crown Royal, and then
it was funny because we were getting introduced as the coaches.
Yeah.
Going around there, like they're introducing us
at the league meetings.
Yeah, at the meetings, and they had players down there. And then, we signed the contracts.
Yes,
and we kept going like, hey, where's our copies? We want our copies. And then this other comes in and gets the job. Affected me twice. And I could tell you is a person who is, I'll straight up, he is not an appropriate human being off the ice. There's been complaints, and somehow he silenced them. I'm not going to get into it because it is what it is. But let me tell you, just even with ways he was with me, was just like, it was horrific and it was disgusting. He's a gross human being, and he was married the whole time. But I digress. But yeah, so we get that, and then we find out he doesn't even have the balls to tell us. Does not have the balls to tell us. We had to find out they made a post about hiring Marty Quarters as a head coach, and we saw the post. So
no, actually, I did hear something. So maybe there's confusion here. I did hear something because if you remember, the story was the wife said, "Are you sure we want to sign these guys? Maybe we should interview someone else just to make sure." And so our contracts were tore up. It was wife that was like, "Oh, I think we should interview someone else first." We already had signed contracts. I
didn't actually never knew about that part. Like, I just remember seeing a post. But so then we ended up interviewing with New Mexico, which we were on a short list for New Mexico. Yeah. And at this point, it was summer and we didn't have a team. So we ended up taking the dumbest deal.
Yeah.
And
for sure.
Cookie and I, honestly, our total salaries would have been hard for one person for a coach.
So it was, we signed as co-head coaches for
30.
I think the combined was 30. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we got 15 each. Yeah.
And totally turned into full predator mode and said, "Oh, I can get these guys because they're desperate now," which we were. We were desperate. We wanted a coaching job. We needed a coaching job. We had nothing.
I will say this: we were definitely desperate. I most likely could have gone back to the Brahmas. You couldn't have. At that point.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to leave you hanging either. But I also wanted to go do our thing.
And be a head coach because you were an assistant there.
Yeah.
And co-head coaching, I wasn't against that because it was both of our first time.
Yeah.
As head coach.
And it was kind of an ideal scenario.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you and I do not have the same strengths as coaches.
No, I've said that before. Like in hindsight, well, not even hindsight, because I said this to Jeremy when we were still coaching the Brahmas. Like, my skill set is as an assistant, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, so. and honestly, like, I was still figuring out as far as head or assistant or where I needed to be. But you know, that came up and we went out there. We met some great families in New Mexico, and
Oh man,
we have zero bad things to say about New Mexico.
I Rio Rancho was spectacular.
Yep,
Going to
great area.
Isotopes games was unbelievable.
We and going to University of New Mexico games where Cookie drops his phone on the field.
Yeah,
But
and I think Tony Gwynn, rest in peace. I think Tony Gwynn or someone in his family is the one that picked my phone up for me.
yep, and we had Andy Van Slyke's younger or son played out there
For
too,
the Isotopes.
for the Isotopes. And Andy Van
Isotopes
Slyke
had some big names when we were there, actually.
Van Slyke, Andy Van Slyke went to my high school.
Yeah.
So he was like that was like a big deal. I was like, holy crap.
And yes, for those wondering, the Isotopes were owned by one of the guys that created The Simpsons. So there were Homer statues and
Their Isotopes logo is in the Simpsons font.
over the stadium. Like there were statues you could have your picture taken with and all this stuff.
And the backdrop of that stadium, second to none with the Sandia Mountains. Like Cookie and I loved it in New Mexico, which honestly eased a lot.
Never expected it. Never expected to.
No, I remember when we moved out there, just pulling in, like kind of like how I talked about pulling into Vegas. We started coming around into the mountain. We're like, holy crap, this is it.
This is nice.
And we're like, oh my god! And driving at night was awesome because you could see the lights. It was otherwise dead black there.
They're putting an East Coast team in Rio Rancho.
I just saw their what is it? Something Heads. Their name is stupid.
Yeah, it's really dumb. The logo's terrible.
Yeah, but it's cool. It's cool they're putting a team back out there.
That arena up there, the big arena that we wanted to play at, is badass.
I mean, they would have had to take all of our pay away then.
Yeah.
But
getting into the serious part, because it got bad. It definitely got.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like, you know, we were playing for yet another owner that started a team for his kid, which was stupid because his kid is a phenomenal goalie.
He was great. And
really good goalie and an awesome kid. Yeah. And he thought he was king shit at Turd Mountain. I'll tell you this right now. We were in Vegas for league meetings, and a random girl walked up, and this girl is a working girl, and trying to get her to work for him in marketing and stuff, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But he was shopping her as, I'm going to try and hire this hooker.
Yeah. As a marketing person for the team.
Yeah. And like just the way he was just so degrading on it. And then, you know, the crap pay we had, and he just expected us to do things as if we were making 150 grand a year.
Yeah. And one of the big things too, there was two things that jump out before we get into the, you know, us being essentially, well, not essentially, we were demoted, but there's two big things that jump out to me, and they probably do to you as well. Number one, you mentioned his son as the goaltender. Joe, we had a goalie sign. John did. I didn't. A goalie sign that ended up being one of the best goalies in the league, but he wouldn't accept the contract. He said, exact words, I will take care of the backup goalie. Exact words. And we're like, okay. And, you know, the kid he brought in, I love Tyler. Tyler's awesome. I love him.
He played some great games.
He did play some great games. But here's the bottom line. A coach's job at that level is to move guys up.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved up sometime, October, November, somewhere in there.
Him and Kenny.
We moved Joey and Kenny up to play for, ironically, Jeremy's dad in a Soyuz, the KIJHL. And instantly, like, we were number 2 in our division at that point. Second in the division at that point. Playing great hockey, doing well. We immediately went on a 10-game losing streak, including Vegas. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, you can't look at those numbers and not say there's a problem.
And we didn't get blown out either. We were still competitive.
No, we were still competitive, but we went on a 10-game losing streak. We were second in the division and went on a 10-game losing streak when we did what our job is to do to move him up.
We lost our number 1 goalie and we lost our number 1 scorer.
Yeah.
And
we could still score goals, but I love Tyler to death, but he was no Joey in that level.
Yeah, no. And he knew that. You know what I mean? Like, Joey was a great goal, and we can't say it enough.
We could have had a quote unquote backup goalie that would have stepped right in and kept winning games for us, but we didn't, and we lost 10 straight games, and essentially lost our jobs.
It actually we would have had a real nice tandem that no other team had,
for sure.
And then we ended up getting replaced, and you know, at the time, we had some inner hostility towards Mike Stanaway, but Mike is the one who saved us from going totally unemployed.
Yeah, I had even more hostility than John did, as he remembers.
Yeah. Well, I remember what happened when I spoke my mind about Frank. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to do that again if I'm able to keep getting paid.
It was kind of crazy how the whole scenario worked out. So our first games after Christmas, so I was back. I was dating someone at the time, very serious. She was already talking about moving to New Mexico. We had this whole thing going. And Christmas, I went back to Texas, spent Christmas with her, and then our old fucking asshole that had a website and a podcast whose name I won't mention at this point.
I don't know why.
You know why. He started texting me saying, "Hey, what's going on? I heard you've been replaced." This is
Christmas Eve.
On Christmas Eve, I'm getting this message. I'm like, dude, I don't have time for this right now, man. I'm with my girlfriend, her kids. We're having Christmas. It's amazing.
And I was still back in New Mexico.
Yeah, you were still in New Mexico. I was back home in Texas. I'm like, he's like, yeah, I hear this is happening. And it's like, dude, this is wrong timing for you to be doing April Fool's jokes. Leave me alone. So I was like, all right. He kept pressing me. So finally, I messaged Mac. I go, Mac, what's going on? I got asshole over here telling me this, and Mac didn't like him either. So that's one thing we all had in common. Mac's like, no, he's full of shit. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It was literally 2 days later, the day after Christmas.
Yep.
It was announced.
Yep.
That Stanaway was coming in. But again, I had massive animosity. But in hindsight, we owe Mike for us staying, because Mike had just gone through a similar thing with Southern Oregon Spartans.
Mm-hmm.
And, he was not going to let Mac get rid of us. He was not going to let him fire us, and made him keep paying us what he was paying us.
Yep. Absolute classy move by Mike. And eventually, we'll get into with the future teams for Cookie especially, but eventually ended up having a pretty solid coaching staff, at least with the three of us.
Well, the funny part was, this is where I was going too. The funny part was, we started the second half of the season in Dallas against the Snipers.
No, it was the Snipers. That's right.
Against the Snipers. And I was telling John, I was messaging and calling John going, I'm not getting on the fucking bench with that guy. There's no fucking way I'm getting on that bench. He took our jobs. And sure enough, I sat in the stands the whole weekend. John was on the bench.
As much as I'm like, I'll be there to speak my mind, I didn't say a peep. I was like, okay.
I did not get on the bench that whole week. I sat in the stands and watched. I'm like, this is bullshit and all this. And then I went. It wasn't until you guys were leaving to go back to New Mexico that I went and actually met Mike for the first time, and I was still pissed. And then I drove back to New Mexico a few days later. I was like, I'm just gonna finish the season and fuck this guy.
Dude, to be fair, like, Southern Oregon had a ton of controversy around it. And some real bad controversy, from the players being idiots to fights in the crowds and in the parking lot.
And as we started to find out from stories from Mike, that owner was a nightmare.
The owner was a nightmare. Most of the rumors about the players were not true. The fans were rowdy.
The owner was the problem.
The same person that Cliff will not say the name of is a person that also told us all these wrong things. And that guy, all he does is start shit and thrive on negativity. He is the biggest cancer to hockey.
And I think I've met lawsuits, which is why I'm shut my fucking mouth.
Yeah, exactly. But we got to meet a lot of these kids, and they were great kids. And that's the other part of the thing, is there was a huge player swap, like a 13-player swap.
Yeah.
Where we sent guys. And the other part, we didn't get into it, with a junior team, your owners will say, sign everybody. They have tryouts. They have all this other stuff. I want you to know, if you're going into junior hockey, main camp don't mean crap unless you're that standout of a player. But they're raising money for themselves, which there's nothing wrong with that, because these teams need money to raise. Yeah. But they dress it up so shady. And when you're recruiting by a team, an owner wants you to sell every kid they're going to start. They're going to be considered for captain, because they want that, at the time, $8,500, not including billet. And they want that money in there. And then we're like, well, what are we going to do with this kid when he comes all the way out here? And they're like, well, just trade him. This owner in particular did not care about the players, with the exception of 3 or 4 of them that was close friends with his kid, Kenny, Mike Martelli, which I love that guy. Mike is such a good dude.
Mike's a beauty.
He absolutely is. Kenny's having a great coaching career right now. And he was a phenomenal player. And like I haven't heard anything about Joey, but he's living his best life. But it was the issue with
Joey.
again,
So, do you even know that Joey ended up playing for Jeremy?
in Springfield?
Yeah, with the Express.
I didn't know that. That's the other funny thing. But
Yeah, we'll get to that too.
but the other thing that we didn't say, and it should have been a red flag, and it really should have stuck out more. But was the kind of guy who just always wanted to look cool and tough. But one of the first things he ever said, coaches are hired to be fired. And which right there, just he basically looked me in the eye and said, I don't give a shit about you. And so, but you know,
he used to come in like if we had, for whatever reason, if we lost the game, and that happened, you know, more and more after, you know, we sent Joey and Kenny up. He'd come into the locker room. We're trying to have like a decent conversation with the boys, keep their heads high and all that stuff because, you know, losses suck, especially when we started off so well. And he would come in railing, you know, I lose 50 grand a year on this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, they don't need to hear this. That's your fucking problem, man. You're the one that decided to buy a fucking team.
Yep, he would come in barking about the money to the players that are paying him.
Yeah.
To be there, and it's just like, you know,
that's the effort you're going to give. I'm losing 50 grand a year, and if I was one of those guys, I'd be like, you're a fucking moron. Then
here's the other famous thing he said. He's like, I'll cut you from this team, and I'm not refunding you a penny. And it's just like, you got to be kidding me. So, you know, the other players came in, and here's the shitty part. We came back, and we played. Our first games were against the Snipers, so it looked like all these moves Mac did were so great because we beat one of the most garbage teams in the league. Because remember, the Snipers were crap back then.
But there's some irony in that. Because who was the Snipers goalie?
You talking about Becton?
No, it was
the other guy.
Tried to sign. It was the Russian you had a contract signed for that Mac ripped up.
Yep, and he was the only reason that team
was even good.
Yeah,
decent.
That's right. Becton was a player. He's actually pretty good too. He put up points every year, but another team where the dad bought a team for his kid. But yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about that. I forgot that's where he ended up.
He ended up with the Snipers. Yeah.
But yeah, and you know, we ended up winning and losing, and the guys we got were good players. I mean, the player was yeah.
There's a couple donkeys, but most of them were really good guys.
We lost some games. We won some big games, like when we beat El Paso in El Paso. But that was because of our player. That was because of Dakota. And you know, it's just the longer we were there, and before, sorry, we're jumping around like in the timeline here, but before the demotion and everything happened, like I that's when my mental health plummeted. And I don't remember a lot about it, but my mental health went down so bad. I had an absolute breakdown, and I like left the house on foot.
No, we both did. I mean, well, I didn't leave the house, but we both had breakdowns. I mean, I remember being in tears at times, literally in tears at times.
Yeah, and I remember just one night I left the house, and mind you, New Mexico's got like coyotes running around. It's not the place you want to just be walking around in the nighttime amongst the nocturnal hunters. But and
I don't think we were in the greatest of neighborhoods either. It was a cool house.
Yeah,
great view.
Oh God, the view! Remember when it snowed?
Oh, so cool.
But again, Cookie and I we're trying to talk bad about it, but we can't even.
Man, it's so nice there. I loved it.
But and honestly, maybe that's kind of what saved it. Kind of what saved us from the brink. But we just had absolute breakdowns because like we tried to. I remember once I even tried to explain it. It's like, listen, it's like we don't get paid for another week. Like I haven't eaten in like 2 days, and I'm like, things are just really hard right now. And he was like, "That's not my problem. You have a job to do." Just.
Yeah, because I remember at the time we only had one car between us. It was and let's be honest, a pretty badass Honda Odyssey. That thing was sick.
Cookie will try and make this van the pimp mobile.
Dude, it had fucking DVD and everything. Dude, that thing was sick.
That thing, it was like the first touch of navigation. Because that was like when it first started being a thing, even though it thought we were always driving off the road.
You had the DVD player that went into a thing in the back of the car as your GPS.
Yeah.
But joking aside, that I bring that up because we were so struggling to make ends meet because of the shit deal we kind of felt forced to sign. I took out a title loan on that thing.
Oh, that's right.
And I remember towards the end, I couldn't pay the monthly payment at one point, and I was quite literally in tears, like an absolute emotional wreck, calling my parents going, I'm about to lose our only form of transportation. We won't be able to get home back to Texas. We can't get anywhere. You know, this is where we're at, all because of this bullshit contract that we were given. And you know, it's hard for me to say forced to sign because we wanted the job.
Yeah, yeah.
But in a way we were, I mean, again, it goes back to taking advantage of. And I mean, it was a horrible, that was the first time I was really in a, other than going back to my Northwood days, when I had my first injury and wasn't playing, that was a tough emotional time for me, but I didn't really have anything until then. And I was, like you said, you had your kind of breakdown. I had my breakdown. It's the first time I really thought, man, I'm not doing well.
And even worse is like, we didn't know how to help each other. Like we didn't know what to do. And like, our backgrounds, like even just growing up, it's not like we grew up in this super fairyland life kind of thing. Like we both had real rough stuff going on. And, it was just a real bad thing. And then, the pressure was off of us, which helped out when Mike came, when we finally came to terms with everything. We got to do a couple cool things. We got to coach that outdoor game up in Los Alamos.
That was amazing. Just
snowing like crazy. I mean, it was sick.
Which even fucked that one up.
Yo,
you know why?
Wow.
My dad's the one that told me he fucked that one up. He called it the fusion series. You know what creates the nuclear?
Yeah, I remember that. The fission, yeah.
Fission, not fusion.
Yeah. No, but I'll tell you how right he is because he's the smartest guy.
But that was a lot of fun. That was really cool.
Those are some of the pictures. I still look back. I'm like, man, that was sick.
So cool. Even that weird dude that came with Stanaway.
Yeah. Well, that's why, what's funny is I said I kind of threw him under the bus. It's like eventually the three of us worked really well as coaches together.
Well, that's the irony because I don't know what it was like when you first met Mike because I wasn't in New Mexico as we talked about. I was still in Dallas. I didn't want anything to do with him. I was like, fuck this guy. He's taking our job. Fuck this guy.
And what's funny is Mike initially told me when I met him because we had a skate. We were practicing, and Mike immediately was like, "You're running the D."
Yeah.
And
he's, that's me.
Huh?
I do D.
Yeah, but not when we were in New Mexico. Not for the end of that.
Did we?
You were up with the forwards, I was on the D next to the other guy. But the other guy, here's the weird part.
I don't even remember that guy's name. Do you remember that guy's name?
Nope, not at all. And but that's the other thing is like he didn't come from a really big hockey background. I think he's just kind of one of those guys that was, like every area's got that one guy. It's going to be a coach or work with the team.
But no, I think part of the story too. I think he was the kid of a rich dad,
something like that.
Yeah.
And so, but Mike was like, "You're running the D," and so. Like I kind of had purpose out of the gates, which kept me just level enough to not snap. But
yeah, the irony is we kind of moved forward because I knew we were going to spend a lot of time on New Mexico, and the rest of them probably won't take quite as long, but we'll see. But the irony of my feelings toward Mike Stanaway are the fact that I ended up coaching 2 more teams with him.
Yeah. And won a heck of a lot of games.
And won a lot of fucking hockey games. But yeah, we ended up, all of us left because we basically told Mac to go fuck himself. And the guy that replaced us is actually one of the best human beings I've ever been around. And I feel terrible that he had to be the one to be there.
Who replaced us? Oh, that's right.
Harry.
The guy you coached with in
Dallas. Yeah, we'll get to that because that's part of my list. But
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I ended up Mike. So Mike's from the UP in Michigan.
Yep. He's from Marquette.
No. Well, he's from yes. Is he from Marquette or he's from Ishpeming? I get confused. But anyway, either way, yes, he's from that area. And so he had been in contact with a guy up there to start a team. And so we decided to, and we sat in his living room in New Mexico for a few nights and came up with a name. And ironically, I think I ended up coming with a name just by accident because I was, as I usually do, I was doing research on the area.
No, you it wasn't by accident because I remember you did it because I wasn't there because I was trying.
It was Isle Royal.
Isle Royale.
But it's Royal, not Royale. That's the key. It's spelled like it should be Royale.
But you guys said it like Royales.
No, Marquette Royals.
I thought you had, oh, no, just because it's spelling. That's right.
Yeah, the spelling, because there's an E, a random E in there that makes it look like it's Royale.
Yeah.
But it's Isle Royal, which is a really beautiful park right on Lake Superior.
Well, you know what the funny thing is you look at where Cookie was from the Snipers game to then Mike wanting him to come with him up to Michigan, and then
Yeah,
and then I got a job in the same league with the Central Wisconsin Saints, where
that name reappears
once again, and this is where I learned what actually was. I was a head coach. I was recruiting. I had a good amount of guys signed. But again, and Cookie could probably attest to this, I refuse to sign guys just for the money. I don't like lying to players. I don't like giving them false hope what's going to happen. And even worse, I don't want them to make this huge move to a part of the country they've never been to say, hey, pack up, you're on your way somewhere else.
Well, and that's why we've had this conversation. That's one of the reasons I sucked at recruiting in juniors. Like, I could find players, I'll talk hockey all day long, but all of a sudden when it came down to, hey, what's the fee? I'm like, what?
Yeah, you have to try and sell. It's like, it's only $8,500.
I'm a terrible salesman.
It was.
I'll sell the hockey side of things, but
I'm a great salesman. But telling kids they're going to pay.
You are a great salesman. I just couldn't do the financial side of it.
As great as a salesman as I am, telling kids they're going to pay $8,500 to start was something else. And so, but yeah, came, and then once again I became the associate head coach because he coached at, I think it was Mercyhurst or no, Merrimack. And so he had like NCAA D1 coaching under his belt. I don't know what the extent of it was, but that's where I learned, like, in a couple of the road trips, I learned what he was, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. And at the end of November, I got moved up to Spooner, Wisconsin, which is in the SIJHL, which is part of Canadian Junior A, but there's two American teams in it. And I took over a team that was 0-25.
And Merrimack, by the way.
It was. And they had, I took over a team that was 0-25, and they had 13 players. Canadian Junior A, the players don't pay to play. They don't pay to bill it. It is a free league, and this guy couldn't fill a roster. So I went up there, and yeah, I did some pretty good things with the team, considering we were with the worst of the worst. These guys would have got smoked in tier 3.
Yeah.
And we ended up beating the number 10 and number 2 team in all of Canada at the time, Fort Francis and the Iron Rangers, and started winning some games. And let me tell you, Spooner was its own nightmare. But it wasn't as bad. Like, just the guy didn't have money to run the team. He was from Spooner, Lars, from Spooner, but Spooner is 2,500 people, and we'd bring 1,500 people per game. And it was a great junior rink. It had a restaurant in there. It had a gym in there. I mean, for a junior hockey team, and I think there's junior hockey back there now. For junior hockey, it is one of the best places I've ever been, along with all the other teams we played. And I've told some stories about, like, Thunder Bay and stuff like that. But that wasn't so bad. They just ran out of money. And Lars is a good dude. Just running a team is not as easy as, like, I'll pay bills and we'll hire a coach. And some people learn the hard way. But when I got moved up, Cookie and Stanaway went on a rampage to the Minnesota League.
Well, this is what I was about to say. And I don't remember the record, so I'm pulling it up.
While you're pulling it up, because the car situation was still what it was, Cookie had to drop me off in Stevens Point.
Yeah, I had switched cars by then to and the funny part of this is it was a 2-wheel drive Trailblazer, and I was headed to Michigan's Upper Peninsula.
Yeah, the snowiest place on earth.
Quite literally.
But yeah, that was, and actually in Spooner, we had one of the worst winters I've ever seen, and I grew up in that stuff. But yeah, Cookie dropped me off there. I ended up going to Marquette with him for a couple days, and we came back down.
But this is where my comment earlier about being the, how did I put it? The unluckiest lucky coach I know.
This is kind of where it really starts.
Kind of where it started, yeah, because we went on, oh God, I'll never forget too. We went on a recruiting trip. We kind of already had our team at that point, but we went on a recruiting trip up to Sault Ste. Marie, up to the Sioux. And it was the showcase that was going on was at Lake Superior State. And between sessions, we're outside just getting some fresh air, and a owner and coach from another team in our league who you will remember, Dell's Ducks area.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name.
But he came up to Mike and I, and Mike had known him for years. I didn't know him that well, although in years following, he tried to hire me a couple times. But he came up to us outside. He's like, man, you guys, putting together a great team. He goes, but let me just tell you, because we were brand new, like Marquette was a brand new team, first year, not just, we didn't.
Not like you took over another team or anything.
No, yeah, we were fresh, like establishing a brand new team. And he goes, yeah, you guys, putting together a great team. Hope you guys do well. He goes, but I would suggest you not trying to win the whole thing in year one. It's going to really upset some people. And Mike and I were just like, okay, sure, guy. Okay, boomer. And sure enough, we went on an epic run and beat his Dell's Ducks in the championship game. And the coach of that team, actually, I said the coach was there. It wasn't the coach. It was the guy from the other website that was there. Similar.
Okay.
Joe K was there.
The guy who moved me to Spooner and sold me a load of shit for that one too.
It was Joe K that was standing with this owner having this conversation, because Bill Zanaboni, who's a good friend and he's a great guy. I love Bill. He was not part of.
Remember who the owner was? The owner was the same owner as my team.
I know. And he ended up owning a third team at some point.
Yeah, the one he tried to hire. Oh no, that was a different
guy.
Tried
to hire me.
Yeah, I tried to hire you.
But I, which wouldn't have been the worst thing because it's one of my favorite cities on the planet. But
what was the team?
Chicago Cougars.
Right. The Chicago hot older ladies.
Yeah. But, so we went on this epic run and beat Billy. But this was the funniest part about the whole thing. We were the two most hated teams in the entire Minnesota League. Most hated by far. For starters, neither of us from Minnesota. One was from Wisconsin, one was from Michigan. So before the championship game even started, we took a group photo on the ice.
That's right.
Just to be assholes. We took a group. Nobody from the league showed up. They had someone else bring the trophy, by the way. So we wanted. It's just insane.
Which
so we
wanted to why that league didn't stick around.
Yeah. So we won in overtime, got the trophy, and that's back when they still had junior nationals.
Yeah.
So we qualified. Well, both of us qualified for nationals, because the year before, the way it worked back then, whichever league won nationals the year before, both teams that made the championship game got to go to nationals. So both of us got to go. Because we won, we were in the harder bracket, and we got our asses handed to us. Like, that was when the junior Bruins were just full of D1 commits and all the shit.
That's right. I think I went to that.
They beat the brakes off of us to the point where at one point they're beating us really bad. And their coach came up to me in intermission, goes, "I'm really sorry. We're just trying to hit this goal differential to be the #1 seed." I looked at him and go, two things. One, we're enjoying watching you guys because it's a lot of fun. Even our players are like, "Holy shit, you're good." And two, I don't think you need to worry about being the #1 seed. You're going to win this thing anyway.
Yeah.
Calm down.
They were
they
nasty.
By double digits, and we were nasty, and they still beat us by double digits.
Yeah, them, like PL Islanders was the other big team back then.
Yeah. But so where this kind of falls into the conversation is, so we go and we win our league. Our team owner, that absolute piece of shit, who also owned the Fort Wayne Federals and coached them, we win the league. He comes in our locker room after the game, because one of the things that Stanaway used to do, and I don't know if he still does this or not. He could, because he keeps getting them. One of his things was, before the season started, he would design the championship ring.
Yeah.
And would show the players, hey, we're going to go win this. So we already had everything designed for a league ring, and told the guys, hey, if we win nationals, we'll just change the wording on it. So we had our Marquette Royals championship ring designed. And after we won the league, team owner comes in the room, congratulate, you guys are awesome. Congratulations. We're going to get those rings for you. Well, I've got a stack of rings back here. Only one of them is hockey, and that's from the next team that we're going to talk about, because that fucking piece of shit not only lied to our players and didn't get them the rings, after winning the league and going to USA Hockey Junior Nationals in year one, wanted Stanaway and I to take a pay cut. And we're like, no. And by then, Stanaway had already found this guy out in Brooklyn, New York that wanted to hire him. And he's like, no, you want it that bad, you can coach the team yourself. We're leaving. And so Stanaway and I went to team #2 together, or team #3, I guess, at this point together, Brooklyn, New York. And took all of our guys with us.
Literally everybody.
Literally took our whole Royals team
And
with us.
some of my guys I had in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You had Whitesy and a couple other guys.
We took the best player from, remember the St. Louis Frontenacs? We took their goaltender who was a stud.
Absolute stud.
And their captain. Their team was fucking terrible, but they had the best goaltender in the league and a stud captain. We took both of them and went out to Brooklyn. And guess what? We won that league too.
Yep.
And
Cookies had a blast designing uniforms. Actually, you designed my Central Wisconsin ones too.
I designed the Royals ones, Central Wisconsin ones, the Aviators ones in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Yep. And like, that's actually the year that was when you went to Brooklyn, that was my last year. And I didn't even make it to the season because I got hired by
New York as well, but different part of New York.
Yeah. I went back to close to where I grew up. There's a team there based out of Morrisville, went out there, got hired. Many junior teams won't start paying a coach till the season starts or till training camp or whatever. So I was making that work. But then come to find out, he didn't want to pay me a check. He only wanted to pay me cash, like under the table. And
red flag number one.
As great as that sounded with my money situation, I was like, that's not good. No. And then he's like, I need you to go out to this and this showcase, especially because we were back in New York. He wanted me to go to all the Boston ones, but he wasn't going to pay my hotel. He wasn't going to pay for my gas to get me out there, food, nothing. He's like, I need you to go do it. And I'm like, I can't. I'm like, you're bringing me from a team that folded.
Yeah.
And like, I'm like, I need to, and you're not paying me. I'm like, you got to at least pay these things. And he wouldn't do it. And then he hands me paper stack. Like, I'm not kidding you, this thick. He's like, call everybody on here and just start signing them. And once again, if we don't like them, when we have a full roster, we'll cut them. We'll cut them or trade them. Yep. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And this was in a league where the hockey was, I can't remember what league it was.
I don't remember what league that was either.
But we had like the Syracuse Stars and a bunch of those teams. And
a lot of be the same league as us, the USPHL, because we played the Syracuse Stars.
Yeah, it had to be. And they didn't even, and then so I was like, I'm not going to do this. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing. I signed like 5 kids only because they were pretty impressed with what I did in Spooner. And I had like 5 kids signed. And mind you, I didn't get hired until like July. So I had a real late start. And so I got hired and I signed like 5 kids and still not paying anything, nothing. And he's like, oh, you're going to get bonuses and all sorts of stuff. And it's just, everything was just like bullshit. Now this guy has got this owner, I'm not going to say his name. He went on to, he owns another team now. He did some work with a team in the NA, is doing it right. Seems to be doing pretty well.
I'm actually friends with him. He's doing really well. And he's a good guy. You know, he really is. He's doing well.
I think he was just kind of shooting from the hip with this new team because he owned a different team at the time. And I was like, I go, there's no way I could do this. And that's when that was my last time coaching. Like I quit coaching, ended up going to, back to running gyms, which how I ended up in Dallas in the first place.
I will say this about the guy you're talking about, because again, I'm not going to mention his name, but I know him well at this point. He was another, God, we keep going back to this. He was another one for a long time, kind of fell, and I did this too. There's no denying it. Kind of fell under the person that won't be named website and podcast thing.
Well, he had a huge influence back then.
Yeah.
And then something happened where people just started figuring out what he was.
Yeah. So the guy you're talking about, again, who I know, and I won't mention his name. We're Facebook friends. He might see this, but that's okay. He's doing great now.
I have nothing bad to say. I have nothing bad to say about him. It just wasn't. There's no coach in the world that would have stuck it out there.
Yeah, no, and he's back. He left where he had been for a year, and now he's back there. And I think that's probably where he's going to stay because he's an older guy. He's got to be in his 60s by now.
Yeah, because he also owned another team in Syracuse.
Did he? I didn't know
up there. Yeah, he owned a different team. It was one of the Syracuse-based teams. But yeah, I was just like, no, there's no way I could do that. But again, my mental health was so bad, I couldn't even be like, I can power through this. Like I was defeated. Yeah. Like I was anybody who fought Tyson in the 80s. Like I was just done for, or I guess it was the 90s. But there's no way I could do it. Went back to running gyms and then got into doing my private lessons, which I still do. Not as much anymore because just like the schedule's being so crazy. But stayed involved in the game, and then I started playing adult league, and I found a way to enjoy hockey again. not as a coach, stayed involved. And then, you know, that's kind of where my whole thing ended. And then just, you know, a couple years later, ended up starting my photography career, was working for Yale and got married. That wrecked my mental health, but that's also what pushed me to the brink where I finally started getting help.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where my thing ended with it. But
Yours ended, and I still had 5 more teams.
yeah, you know what's funny is like mine ended, but the funny part is I actually got to come down. I shot, like I still kept a relationship with you and Mike. I came down and photographed in the very beginning. Came down and photographed some aviator stuff.
This kind of goes along with going back to the broader focus of this conversation, the mental health side and coaching and whatever. So we had another, you know, championship year in Brooklyn, and actually it was the last year they did junior nationals, ironically, the very last year they ever did it. And we finished second that year. Had a shit year the year before, but finished runner up that year, lost to the Junior Bruins. But it was a close game that time. It was like a 1 or 2 goal game that time. And we their team owner at the time was talking about starting or buying a second franchise and wanted me to be the head coach. We'd had conversations about it. So I kind of said, all right. And so I separated from Mike. By then, I had my issues with Mike. There's some stuff that had gone on. Don't need to get into that, but I had my issues and I was kind of ready to get away from him anyways. We're good now. We've reconciled over the last few years, but and frankly, I joke with people. I don't even think he realized I had issues with him because I just kind of went away. Well, yeah. It wasn't on him. I just didn't even talk to him, but I just left. I was like, screw this.
Oh, I just figured because Mike is always just kind of so focused on hockey straight ahead.
Well, no, because our team owner at the time wanted to buy a second franchise in the New York area. In fact, the rink he was hoping, and he and I went and toured it, went to the rink. It was there in I forgot the name of the town, but it's where they filmed a lot of the scenes from Big. You know, at the end scene or the ending of Big, when he goes back to the, you know, fortune teller thing on the boardwalk there, right on the water and all that stuff. There's a rink there, and it's really cool. I can't remember exactly the town, but just outside of the city.
That's not Long Beach, is it?
No, we were in Long Beach. I lived in Lido Beach, and the Sharks were in Long Beach. This was on the other direction, more kind of north, if I remember right. But wasn't even on Long Island. I don't think it was on. Yeah. Anyways, I'll have to figure.
Yeah, it definitely was on Long Island.
What?
The Sharks?
No, I'm talking about this other team. This was a separate thing.
Oh, a team that never happened.
Team that never happened. And that's where I was going with this. Is he was going to do this, so I separated from Mike. And in the interim, Mike got a new assistant. So I'm thinking I'm getting my own head coaching job. We're going to start this team at this other rink, this and that. And then at the end of the day, it didn't happen.
Mm.
And by then, my old job was gone. Whether I wanted to stay with Mike or not, I didn't have the choice. It was gone. So I was like, fucked again. But at the same time, going back to the end of Marquette into Brooklyn, I had started dating someone, and we became, we were already talking about getting married and all this stuff. She's the sister of one of my oldest and best friends from back in my photography days. By the way, someone I'm hoping we get on this month for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, a survivor. But her sister and I dated, and we were already, frankly, looking at rings or where.
Wait, you're trying to get your ex or the sister?
The sister. No, not my ex. It's her sister that's a breast cancer survivor now.
Gotcha. Okay.
But so I was dealing with
Rye.
Yes, Rye, New York. Yes. Did you look it up or you? Yeah.
No, I just.
Yes, it was Rye, New York. Yes. Sorry. Shit. But anyways,
the only reason I remember that is that's where the Rangers used to practice, and I remember talking about that.
Yes. So it was the rink there in Rye, New York, right at the amusement park and all that. It's a funky building. It would have been a weird setup for a lot of reasons, but anyways, it still would have been cool. But it didn't happen. But also, I was dealing with the personal side, kind of. I wouldn't say for the first time in my career, because I had this New Mexico situation, but that was never really going to go anywhere. This was. So after all that went down in New York, I went up to Maine, where she was from, and stayed in Maine for a couple months and with her. I think we kind of realized at that point we were a better couple when we lived in separate states. That didn't work so well, and it sucks.
Been there, buddy. Been there.
Oh my God. Yeah, we have since reconnected and everything's good. She's seeing someone now, but we've, all is good now, and we're never getting back together.
Never, ever. Sorry.
Shit.
Sorry, Taylor.
It added to, I was again without a coaching job. I was now without, what I thought was a future wife with, her two boys, which I adored, who were 4 and 6 at the time, and just absolutely adored them. And so it was a difficult time for me mentally, for a lot of reasons, not just the coaching, but from a personal side. It was really the first time that I had both. I mean, I always kind of had the coaching thing that messed me up mentally, and then I had both, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I left Maine, which Maine's beautiful.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous up there.
Came back to Texas, and I was kind of working with my parents' hockey and figure skating shop for a bit. I went to help my mom. Actually, I did it on my own now that I think about it. I went because my mom used to set up booths at figure skating competitions and would sell
big money,
a variety of shit, like just all sorts of stuff. And so she couldn't make this one trip to Denver, so I did it. It was a South Suburban ice rink in Denver, a rink I grew up playing in as a kid. I went out to South Suburban, and as I was there, I was staying with some friends of mine, no longer friends anymore for other reasons. But, while I was there, I just started trying to connect with some old friends other hockey friends. The friends I was staying with were, it was a figure skating couple, a gay couple. Well, one was a figure skating coach, the other was not. I was staying with them, and they're spectacular in downtown Denver. Like, it doesn't get much better than that. It was sick. And they're hilarious. Well, they were. I don't care anymore. But I started trying to connect with some of my hockey buddies that I knew from Dallas that had moved to Denver. And I got a hold of one, and I was like, hey, just out of curiosity, you guys looking for another coach? And sure enough, they were. And that's where the Colorado Springs thing happened, Pikes Peak Miners. And we've talked about Jeremy Swayman a lot, but I'm going to leave him out of this because there was a lot more that went on there, especially with the end. And we were very successful and, doing well. I wasn't getting paid a ton, but I had a free place to live, which had a view of, Pikes Peak and all that. Was really cool. What led to the end was, and kind of where we come back to the broader point here, is we had a great year. We had guys that went off to the North American League. Some guys went to the USHL. Long-term guys went and played Division I hockey, and even some that played professionally. And yet goes back to the powers that be. This was a youth association running things, decided they wanted to make this broad change and get rid of the Pikes Peak Miners name, which was quite literally the oldest name in, at the time, junior and AAA hockey. Pikes Peak Miners had been around forever.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, they were a very old team.
Yeah, and decided, no, we want to combine it with the other youth hockey we're doing and be the Colorado Springs Tigers. Like, who gives a fuck?
Which makes no sense.
And because it's an established name that people respect and love, and you want to do this. And
even the name, there's no Tigers or anything. It's just a stupid name.
And the two head coaches they had, were just amazing. Greg Vanover was coaching the 18U team that Swayman was on, and then names escaping me off the top of my head from the 16 team, but I was an assistant on both. So that year I coached over 100 games. It was crazy, and it was not a crazy year, but we had so much success there. And again, they're like, "Oh no, we want to do something different," and we're like, oh, "All right, well, see you later." And that's when I headed back to Dallas. There wasn't a lot there that really hit the mental health side of things per se. My first year back, I coached a AA team, which was actually a lot of fun. It was less stress than I'd had in a long time, and had a great group of kids. Kind of inherited
Dallas Hockey
Club. Dallas. Yeah, HC Dallas. Kind of inherited a team because their coach had taken a job in the North American League, ironically. and there was a group of kids that had been together for a while, and he trusted me to take it over, and so it was fun. And then the following year is when they had changed the name. So that was the same program they had AAA as well, HC Dallas AAA, which used to be Alliance AAA, and then
Oh,
they
I
changed.
never knew that.
Yeah, that was Alliance, and then they became that last year they became Dallas Blackhawks Elite, and for
Where did
me,
you guys play out of? Didn't Alliance play out of Valley Ranch?
Yeah, we were in Valley Ranch. Yeah, so so we became Dallas Blackhawks Elite, and I don't want to get into comments at this point. I have my own feelings about it, and but I'm not going to get into the idea of the Blackhawks and logos and all that. There's enough out there about that. But for me personally, it was a special thing because I grew up as a Dallas Blackhawk, the original Dallas Junior Hockey Association. Now they're the Penguins. DJHA is the Penguins, but the original DJHA that I grew up in was the Blackhawks, because we had the Dallas Blackhawks CHL pro team for many years back in the day. And
this one played out of Fort Worth, right?
No, Fair Park in Dallas. Fort Worth was the Texans.
That's right. You're sitting here saying Dallas Blackhawks. I'm like, out of Fort Worth, right?
I've only said Dallas Blackhawks a few times now. Fucking idiot. But so it was kind of special for me to get to coach the Dallas Blackhawks, and more so than that, and I didn't know this going in, was the fact that I would be coaching alongside Steve Harry, who's an absolute legend, and that's an understatement.
I only got to talk to him a little bit when I shot your games up in Connecticut. Such a nice guy.
He's such an unbelievable hockey mind and a great guy. His son is now coaching after a lengthy pro career. His daughter is a badass as well. She's actually doing some MMA stuff, and she's not fighting, but she's training. I don't know if that's a fight, but she's a badass. And I learned more from Harry in that one season than I learned from anybody in my entire coaching career. Now obviously I've mentioned Brody, my coach in Northwood, many times. I learned so much from him, and obviously Todd, my stepdad. But that one season coaching with Harry changed my philosophy on coaching in general, and it was special. And he's unreal. He's back to coaching pro hockey again in the is he in the Fed or the SP? I can't remember, but he had done that for a while, and then now he's back doing it again. But I think the closest thing to the broader topic with the Blackhawks was our big rival, obviously, in town was Dallas Stars Elite, which is, if anybody's a hockey person, they know about Dallas Stars Elite. It's a big brand. It's a huge thing. Ironically, not really associated with the Dallas Stars. They just use the name. And so they were the big dog in town. They've had huge names play for that program, the Jones brothers, Caleb and Seth, and among many others. And so they were the big dog in town, and we never beat them. And then we went to playoffs. It was the Texas playoffs or whatever it was, best of 3 series, and we ended up I think it was game 2, must have been game 2. In this best of 3 we actually beat them, and it was the best win of our season. We had won a lot of games that year, but that was the best win of the season. But as it turned out, it would have been the last thing we ever did, because the way Texas hockey works, you just don't mess with the big dog. And that one win out of all the losses against them made people in Texas Amateur Hockey Association go, yeah, we only need one AAA program in the state. So they dropped our program, and a lot of kids got screwed on that deal.
Is that what happened to the Ice Jets as well?
It happened to everybody. That program knocked out the Ice Jets. They tried to knock out Alliance for years, but they didn't knock out Alliance or HC Dallas because they kept winning and they didn't care. It was just games, local games they could go win and beat up, and we ended up beating them because our goalie absolutely stood on his head. And next thing we know, it was literally not long after that win and the season ended. Like, we're talking weeks, not even months. It was weeks, and they're like, yeah, we're only gonna have one AAA program in the state. Like, that loss. Oh, in the state of Texas, there's only one AAA program.
The biggest state in the lower 48 in mainland, one AAA program.
And you can actually include other states in that because Taha kind of runs
like Oklahoma
and Louisiana and all that. Yeah,
and like Arkansas and them.
Yeah, I mean Arkansas doesn't have much of a youth program. It's okay, but they're never going to have a AAA. But Oklahoma definitely could, for sure. Louisiana probably can't, but Oklahoma definitely could have a AAA program.
I mean, between Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that was the other thing too. It's just the way Taha's run, you're not supposed to have out of state kids, or it's limited, but which was bullshit because the Stars,
which is crazy because the Dallas
Stars
Stars
found ways around it because they would have billet kids come in and change their address to local addresses. They had Russian and all that stuff.
It's just a crazy thing though, because like Dallas Stars, prior to all the controversy they're going through right now, Dallas Stars did such a good job of growing youth hockey from the time they moved there, and it's just like it's big. I mean, look how big youth hockey is there.
But the Stars don't run any of it.
No, it's not that they run it. It's just that the Dallas Stars moving there and having a pro team there expanded hockey.
I mean, it did. There's no question. They've also the people that are in charge of all that, and we've mentioned one of them because he had the whole.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been how many weeks ago now we talked about it, the Keith Andreessen situation. He's an absolute piece of shit, and I don't mind saying his name and saying he's a piece of shit. Prior to I told you earlier, there's 9 teams on my list, starting with the Brahmas going up to where I am now. There's actually a lot more prior to that because I've been doing this a long time, including in Dallas, and had to deal with all the bullshit in Dallas hockey. And I just don't even want to talk about it because it'll just make me insane.
He's been dragged enough where you're not.
No, he needs to be dragged. He needs to be dragged more.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So that was the closest thing because and it wasn't even me. I felt terrible for the kids that happened with the Blackhawks. They didn't deserve that. It was the biggest win of their young lives at that point.
And they shit on it.
And they just got shit on. And frankly, on the other game, honestly, we should have won the other game. If there had been a replay review, we scored a goal they took away from us that would have won us the other game. We would have swept them in the series.
Here's the thing with it's imagine like how sad it is because look at the value there is in losing a big game. Like nobody likes to lose, but look at the value in losing a big game. Let me tell you, some of the best lessons I've learned are times I got hurt, big games I've lost, or even some of these conversations we're having now about my coaching history. I learned so much from those kind of things. Those are the adversity you need to go through. I mean, you want to talk about Sidney Crosby, arguably one of the best players in the game still. He didn't win all those cups before they got waxed by Detroit. And you know what I mean? And like, again, that's the NHL level when you're talking about an elite athlete. But the lessons learned in that. I mean, you always hear Gretzky talk about when they lost to the Islanders. And he was walking out, they were fine. He looks in the locker room and they're just beating the hell out. They're hardly celebrating.
You learn to lose before you learn to win.
Yeah. And it's like, the value in like the competition. What's across the street from every CVS?
A Walgreens.
A Walgreens. Dallas is so stupid and arrogant. Like, imagine the competition and the level of hockey you could have if you had the Dallas area alone. How many millions of people live there? You have even 2 or 3 AAA teams there. Cut down your costs a little bit for travel, but just to take the state of Texas and turn it into a hockey powerhouse. But
the sheer arrogance, like you said.
Yeah, it's honestly.
And I mean, we talked about this with other stuff too. At the end of the day, it's the almighty dollar. When you only have one AAA program, you can charge whatever the fuck you want. And
what's funny is I was about to look that up.
They charge a lot. Yeah. While you're looking that up, I'll kind of finish my thing.
How much does it cost to play AAA hockey in Dallas?
I can't believe you just asked.
No fucking way. AAA hockey.
I won't be surprised by the number. Let me hear what you say.
I think my eyeballs almost fell out on the table. AAA hockey in Dallas could cost anywhere from $10,000 to over $20,000 per year, with travel being a significant factor. Uniform cost could be around $12,000.
Okay. I'm gonna slow you down right now because that $10,000 is bullshit. It's absolutely over $20,000. Oh, absolutely. I know that for a fact because even when I was there, and this has been years ago, it was already 20 grand.
That is.
And it does, by the way, that 20 grand, and that might have changed between now and then, but back then that 20 grand for the elite did not include the travel.
No, actually most AAA teams, you have your base fee.
Pikes Peak Miners, we charged, I think it was 13.5, which is a lot, don't get me wrong, but that included all the travel. They didn't pay extra. That 13.5 was what you paid, and that included everything. Which again, I'm not saying that's not a lot of money, but when it includes everything and you compare that to the 20 grand, another program, it's value for sure, because another program is paying 20 grand and that doesn't include everything. And that was years ago. I mean, I can't even imagine what it is now.
Yep. You know what's funny is I just tried to look up Dallas AAA hockey alumni that played in the NHL, and it's bringing up a bunch of guys that are not kids that grew up in Dallas.
None of them, well, I shouldn't say none of them. A lot of them didn't. There are quite a few that did. What's his name that played in Calgary forever? Who's from Plano?
I'm sure there's
I mean, the Jones brothers are easy, but the Jones brothers funny too, because there's two different organizations that claim them.
Well, Colorado too, right?
Yeah, the Thunderbirds claim them too. Yeah, the T-Birds claim them, and Stars Elite. Stars Elite has rightful claim because their dad, Popeye Jones, played for the Mavericks.
Yeah, yeah. I was about to say, like, their dad was a big time NBA player.
Yeah, he played for the Mavericks, so they have the Dallas thing for sure. But anyway, so from there, and like I said, that wasn't really the broader topic we're doing here, other than excuse me, I felt bad for the guys. But I went from there to Missoula, Montana.
To cut you off real quick,
yeah,
one guy from the area, from Allen, Texas, he was drafted by the Capitals. Kid named Jackson Crowder plays for the Steel in the USHL. As soon as I saw the name, I'm like, oh. And then I saw his face. I'm like, definitely him. But yeah, so again.
Well, the first Dallas-born kid that actually played for Stars Elite was drafted by Dallas. He's played preseason for them this year. Hannes. Forgot his first name, but he's gonna.
So the first one born in Dallas came through the system to play in the NHL. Also drafted by Dallas.
Yeah, he's the first. I can't remember his first name. His dad's name is Trevor. Still coaches down there as well. His dad does. But yeah, I go from there to Missoula, Montana, and I won't go much further beyond this. I
always forget you're in Missoula.
Missoula was spectacular, man.
It's Montana. It's gorgeous.
Absolutely spectacular. I spent 2 years there and had some serious. There was a lot of factors for our broader topic that shows up in Missoula. First year was perfectly fine. Other than, I mean, there's always some pitfalls early on, finding billet families, doing all this bullshit. But first year was great. Took the team to the playoffs and won our first playoff game in franchise history that year. So already success right off the bat. And then year two, things just started to kind of disappear. It was a struggle, and I would say most of it, if not all of it, was not of my doing. Had a great group of kids. I loved that team. A lot of them ended up kind of sticking around Montana, in fact, and playing for Montana's ACHA team after all was said and done. But
this is juniors, right?
NA3.
NA3, that's right.
Yeah, NA3, and we made the playoffs both years. Or no, we didn't make it second year. I take that back. But here's kind of where things started going south. So I was already I already knew things weren't in a good spot necessarily with regards to the ownership there. And I was kind of in a weird situation myself. I loved it there. I did not want to leave. But I knew if I didn't come up with something, I was going to end up stuck again, kind of like I am right now. And so I reached out to Lozzie. I think it was around November. I don't think it was quite December yet. Maybe it was even October. And I said, hey, I suspect I'm not staying after this year. Any chance, you're going to have an opening for an assistant coach? Because I also kind of want to go ahead and finish my degree. If I come back to you, I can go to school and, do all that. And he's like, well, it's great timing on your part, because his assistant that he had that year was leaving at the end of the year to go. Actually, he went and did something for a year, and now he works for the St. Louis Blues. I don't think he's a strength coach. He's a trainer or something. I don't know exactly what it is. Anyways, great guy. Really good dude. And I said, oh, perfect. Well, I said, give me a few weeks and I'll give you a final answer if this is what I want to do. And it didn't take me long to figure it out. Yes, I did. And kind of backing up a bit, when I first took the job in Missoula, it was kind of a last second deal, not all that dissimilar from what we did in New Mexico, but slightly different, to where the previous coach in Montana, up in Missoula, kind of left them last minute and didn't give them a lot of time. And I had someone that kind of, suggested me for that job. I heard about it, and someone kind of suggested me to the owners for that job. So I reached out right away and I got the gig, but it was late. Like, I think if I remember right, the NA3 draft was like 2 days after I got the job. And I'm like freaking out. So I basically drafted all my Blackhawks guys because I didn't know anybody. I I went through some other lists and stuff, but I kind of drafted a bunch of Blackhawks guys and ended up with a couple of them. But, which NA3 draft, that's a whole other thing. I loved it, but that second year I was like, yeah, something's a little off. So I told my owners, I said, look, here's the situation. And this was around, again, in November. I said, here's the situation. This will be my last season. I'll play out my contract, but I want to give you enough time, because you didn't have that last time. I want to give you enough time to find my replacement, so you're not doing a last minute thing. So I was trying to do it the right way, like give them a heads up, give them plenty of time to find somebody, so they weren't scrambling at the end like they were the first time. And we had a great year. I mean, it wasn't as good as the year before. We had a good year. Should have made the playoffs, got kind of screwed at the end, but that's a whole other thing. Season, we're in the second half of the season, and by then they had found who the coach was going to be, and it was Emerson Edom, who had played in the NHL. Emerson had played, I think he played for the Ducks. He played for a lot of teams. Kind of a suitcase in the NHL, but he was there. I mean, more than you and I did.
He played one preseason game in the NHL. It's awesome.
And he was a decent player, but he wasn't anything. He wasn't breaking any records, but still he got there. And so they hired Emerson, and the day my mental health started taking a serious dive up there, we have I can't remember if it was a Friday night or Saturday night game, but this was pregame, and I'm ready to give my pregame talk like we all do. This was after warmups. Wasn't even like before warmups when things are a little more kind of chill. It was after warmups. We're ready to go. And my team owner came barging in, and he's like, guys, I got a video for you. I'm like, what's going on here? And he put a video up on the board of Emerson Edom NHL highlights. He goes, yeah, this is your coach next year. I left the room. I'm like, what are we doing here? I had to walk out of our own locker room.
What a petty and bush league move.
The short story on that is, all he cared about was the fact that he was getting a guy that played in the NHL, had literally never coached for. And that's nothing against Emerson. Emerson ended up being eventually a good guy. I say eventually only because he kind of, and I don't blame him for this, he kind of fell for the bullshit that was being fed to him by the owners about me. It was all lies. And so he kind of turned on me until he realized he got treated actually worse than I did. And he's like, oh yeah, I see where you're coming from now. But I never in my coaching career at that point had that happened, which was really fucked up. And I've got players after the game, because we played. It was a decent game. I don't remember the exact result. It doesn't matter at that point because my brain was somewhere else by then.
Right.
And I'm getting phone calls and messages from my players, in particular the guys I'd already known, like some of the Texas guys, but literally everybody, even guys that didn't, necessarily like me too much, because we always have that. There's a couple of guys that may not, aren't your favorites, or you're not their favorite. To a man, almost every single player had either called or messaged me going, that was really fucked up. Cannot believe he just did that.
Yeah.
Really fucked up.
And that's got to mess with the guys' heads beforehand.
Yeah. Yeah. So season went on. We did our end of season banquet, and I hadn't had a paycheck prior to that. So we're at our awards banquet. I'm handing out awards, trying to, be all happy. And I went up to one of the owners, it was a husband and wife, went up to the wife, said, hey, just wanted to make sure everything's okay. I didn't get my last paycheck. She goes, oh no. She goes, you quit. I'm like, what? Yeah, you quit. We have a new coach. I was like, I told you back in like November. If this is how I knew I was going to be treated, I would have left you then. I didn't get my last 3 paychecks from that job. And then I'm like panicked. I'm trying to get, well, first I was going to go home to Texas before coming, because by then I knew I was going here to Springfield, coach with Jeremy at Missouri. So I'm like, I didn't get my last 3 paychecks because you claimed that I quit, even though I was trying to give you full heads up back in November. So you had time, and now you're not paying me my last paychecks because you said I quit. And then what happens? COVID. I'm still in Montana packing my apartment. COVID hits. And now I'm panicked because I'd already, my lease was up. I'm out, and then COVID hits, and we're all kind of in a state of what the hell's going on. My dad up in Bellingham, because at that point, if you remember, we really didn't know what was going on. There were reports that even some states were going to close borders, so you couldn't travel to the state. So my dad's panicking up in Bellingham, Washington. Goes, maybe you should come this way, even though that's where COVID originally started, was up in Washington, not in Bellingham, but in Washington. It kind of started there and then made its way. And I'm like, he goes, I don't know if you're going to make it all the way to Texas. I go, well, at this point, I'm not even trying to get to Texas. I'm just trying to get to Missouri. Because if I can at least get to Missouri, get to Jeremy's house and just camp out, then I'll be there for when we get started. But I didn't know if I was going to be able to leave Montana. I was after all that had gone on, it goes back to the financial side of it too. I'm just in a horrible, horrible mental state. Thankfully, I had 2 really good friends up there that were as my assistant coach and our trainer. If I can find it, I'll include a picture of them. It was the last time we saw each other. We're in my apartment that's emptied out, as you'll see if I can post the picture, and we're having one last shot of really good bourbon together, but we're also 15 feet apart from each other because it's COVID. And like we can't be near each other. And it was, Mike and Mitch, man, 2 unbelievable people. I miss those guys. But
the irony of that is that's not the first time that happened to you. Our last paycheck in New Mexico, when had told us that we weren't coming back. He told us, so it wasn't like us quitting. He told us we weren't coming back.
Which was fine, by the way, because at that point I already knew I was going to Marquette, and you already knew you were going somewhere too.
Right, but that was the thing of it, is like, he's like, you're not coming back. He's like, what'd he say? He's like, he already told us we weren't going back there. And then he had you post about the new coach.
Well, this is where I was going to go, because one thing through all of this, and you know this about me, and I meant to say this at the very beginning of this, because a lot of what we were going to talk about tonight was going to be, in some ways, at least on my end, I don't want to speak for you, self-aggrandizing, tooting our own horn, patting ourselves on the back, woe is me, all that kind of stuff. And that was one of the things I was going to say, because there's one thing you could say: I may not be the greatest coach in the world. I know that. I'm not the best coach in the world by a long shot. Not even close. Frankly, at times I feel like I have imposter syndrome, that I'm not that good. But one thing that can't be said about me is my loyalty to my employer, no matter who they are. And that piece of shit, after all that, I had to write up the press release and the social media post to hire our replacement.
Yeah, and
I did it. Well,
you did it, and then they said they weren't gonna pay us our last $500 a piece. They weren't gonna pay us that because we were the ones that gave up on the team. And then I remember, because we had the other owner, I messaged him, and the only thing he knew, because he was a super good guy.
And I think I told you, I got to see a year or 2 ago. He happened to be in town for whatever reason in Springfield.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, we was just fed all the bull crap that told him. So like shit on us. But again, we saw once that year, I think.
Yeah.
And so it was just a kind of crappy thing. But you bring up a really good point about the whole, it's not supposed to be a woe is me thing. Like I got out of coaching. Never once did I say I changed lives or did anything. I talked about the things I enjoyed about it. And the fact of the matter is I stuck with a lot of it because honestly, my whole life I've been terrified to leave hockey. I've been on skates since I was
Yeah.
2 years old, and I don't know a time in my life without it, the good and the bad. And I'm fortunate to still be in it because it's not an easy industry to stay in, especially when you're dealing with other people that are signing your checks. But the whole thing with this and the whole mental health aspect of it is, it's two-sided. It's hopefully if anybody who owns teams or they are those check signers, hopefully you see this and realize like your coaches of what's going on now, unless they're out there doing just real bad things that are affecting the lives of the players negatively, they're human beings and they're there because they want to be there. This excludes NA and USHL coaches because they're all making a healthy salary, but they also really had to work their ass off to be considered to be one of those coaches. And they've likely gone through this in the past. You know what I mean? Like we bring up John Cooper a lot, which really came up through the ranks. I guarantee you he's got horror stories of owners. And while we always appreciated the chances you and I were given, especially because we were pretty unproven coaches in the beginning.
Yeah, for sure.
At the same time, it sucks that like you take the human element away from it, and people are always going through things, and it's an ignorant thought to think it's like, oh, well, they're coaching, they should be happy, they should be grateful that they're here coaching this team and I'm paying them. And it's just like that was really what happened in New Mexico, and I don't think I ever recovered from it. And like I was basically a wounded dog going to Wisconsin. And then I was super proud of the things I did in Spooner with a team that didn't belong there. But at the same time, and going to New York, it's like I finally got beaten up enough. And this isn't a woe is me thing. It was just the wear and tear on your mind it takes when you realize that you're not a human element to a coach, but you're just a tool of the business. And, hockey's not a retail shop. Your coaches are there to inspire these kids and to leave a good impact. I can promise you at the very minimum, if we were to talk to people from New Mexico, they would honestly say great things about us. And I would attest that would be in any of the communities that we ended up being in. And I was telling you before, talking about someone that's going to come join us on our podcast, and I'm sure we'll go on to her top podcast, Tatiana Rafter, which had a phenomenal pro career and an outstanding hockey career. And she's doing major things in hockey up in Winnipeg and Manitoba right now. And just honestly, anybody that comes in touch with her. But she said a quote to me: to be a coach at any of these, especially developmental levels, you already have to have a good level of mental health.
Yeah.
And which, in retrospect is so true. Like I wasn't there. I think I told you, I've told many people before, I was at a stage in my life, I didn't even know I needed help. I just accepted that's how I was. And it wasn't the greatest person. I didn't handle things very well, especially their big things. So my mental health wasn't there. I think if I were to go back now and be in that position, but in the state I'm in now, I'd be able to look at things and say, this isn't going to work. This is how it has to be. And honestly, if you and I were paid even just that individually, because he ended up spending a lot more than that in New Mexico when everybody was there. It's funny, all of a sudden he had the money.
Paid Jeremy a lot of money here too.
Yeah. But if we were at that and we were in that state, like we would have felt supported. And the other thing she had mentioned is it's very frequently forgotten of how much an organization needs to support those coaches because they are the ones doing the hardest bit of work. Especially when you don't have general managers or what do you see juniors all the time? Head coach, general manager. You have to sign everybody. You have to sell everything. You have to sell all the sponsorships. You have to organize the billets. Some places you're lucky enough to have great volunteers, but they wear you to the bone for nothing. And God forbid you're not perfect at your job, they will let you know. And just like we were told, coaches are hired to be fired. And it's not fair to make somebody work in that condition.
And that's what people on the outside, even the outside hockey people outside, but even non-hockey people outside, don't think quite understand. And I get it. I understand why you wouldn't understand is that, especially at the junior level, maybe more so, well, definitely more so than the college level, is because you're still, when we say juniors is 16 to 20-year-olds, like, well, you're coaching youth hockey. You don't get it. It's not youth hockey. It's a different animal from you know, what truly is youth hockey. It's a full-time. I used to joke with people, if I could only work 40 hours a week coaching juniors, I'd be thrilled. Because it ain't a 40-hour week job coaching juniors, and neither is college hockey. I don't care what level you're at. Yeah,
I never had the college
hours.
hockey coaching experience that you guys have, but
Yeah.
juniors, yeah, you're absolutely
I
right.
mean, the hours you're working are crazy because I mean, people only see the end result, the game. Occasionally, they might come see you at a practice, but they don't see, especially at our levels, because like you said, we don't have the big staffs. Like I'm up, you know, in Montana or here, especially like in Montana, but I do it here on a different day. But I'm there after a game for another 3-4 hours, breaking down all the shit we had to put out for merchandise or whatever it was. Doing.
Remember on Sunday before we recorded? Yeah, I was about to say on Sunday before you recorded, you're like, I have to run to the rink and throw in a load of laundry.
Yeah, I still haven't finished, and that game was, you know, we didn't play this weekend. It was last weekend.
Yeah.
But no, I guess we don't play this week. Yeah, this game's last week. I still haven't finished. Yeah. So it's the stuff you don't think about, you know, and there's no reason you would. I get it. But it's yeah, and I do want to say one thing to kind of take away the generalization of some of what we talked about tonight. You and I have had some pretty, as I say, unlucky experiences, and I guess I was unlucky and lucky at the same time with the success I had. The generalization I want to take away, and there's a reason I'm saying this, and that is we had some pretty shitty ownership on the teams we worked with in juniors. I had, at the end of my time at Missouri State, I'm not going to get into that tonight. We've gone long enough, and I've told enough stories. The Missouri State situation was more player-based because of how that team is set up, like a lot of club sports with a player board. That was the main issue there. But I want to take some of the generalization on the junior side and just say there are good ownership out there. It does exist. There are good coaches out there just as much as there's shit coaches out there. And the reason you know there's good ownership and good coaches out there is because the same people are in the same spot they've been in for a long time. They don't move. You know, Bill Zanaboni is a prime example. And, you know, there's guys that are doing it the right way, even at the tier 3 level as ownership. You know, they're not in it for the money. If they can make a buck, they're not going to argue, but they're in it for the right reasons. And that's the reason why those teams are, they may not be successful in championships, but they're successful in longevity. The shitty owners don't last. And that's one of the beauties of tier 3 juniors to a point is the shit gets put out to pasture relatively quick. And the reason I know that is there's not a single junior team that I coached that still exists. And that's because of ownership, not because of me, because they lasted a year or two or more after I left, but they don't anymore.
You know, it's funny.
Or if they do exist, like that Long Beach Sharks franchise that was the Aviators franchise that I coached, it's still the same franchise, completely new ownership. So they're doing okay because that guy's gone. That guy, which by the way, I found out later on, was also not giving Stanaway paychecks after a while.
You know what? I feel like I knew that, but maybe not. And the other side of it, the only one that still exists is there's a reason it still exists is the Brahmas, because they dissolved their pro team because they had that CHL team, the Central Hockey League CHL for those.
Yeah, and that's the only one. But Renegades are gone, and the Renegades that became the Express, that's all gone. Now I will say, to defend him a little bit, that necessarily wasn't Mac's fault. That was another owner that was an absolute train wreck. That was a whole.
But the whole point is like he got rid of the program because he didn't need it anymore because his son was gone.
True. So Express
that second owner. Holy crap!
Oh, wow. Marquette Royals are gone. New Mexico or Missoula Junior Bruins are gone. In fact, the Missoula Junior Bruins owner is banned from the rink and is banned by Safe Sport Hockey at this point. So, yeah,
tells you a lot.
Yeah, fuck that guy. I ain't the bad guy here.
Nope.
I just,
Central Wisconsin Saints are
like I said,
gone.
I'm not. I've said all along, I'm not the best coach in the world, but I work my ass off, and I'm loyal to the people I'm surrounded by.
Yeah, the Central Wisconsin Saints are gone. He rebranded the team into something else. I can't remember what it was. And I'm pretty sure he's gone from there. I don't know where he is anymore.
He wait, coach?
Yeah.
He's
Well, he
coaching.
also became one of the owners too
He's
for after a
coaching
while.
TBC.
Oh, is he okay? And then the team in Spooner, like I said, folded. There's been a couple different teams that come through there. It's a challenging place because of location.
They do
And there's
have
not
a team in the USPHL. That's what I was just looking up while you're talking about it. Yeah, it's the Northwest Express.
Oh, okay, yeah. They had a team in the NA for a year or two. But and I think they tried to go back to the SIJHL. And then, I think they lost that during COVID because you couldn't go country to country because there was only us and one other team in the US. So the rest of them were in Canada.
Their USPHL. This is a topic for another day, but I love this. If you go to either their Facebook or their actual, and I'm literally just on the Google search right now, but the Northwest Express is a junior A hockey team in the USPHL. Someone needs to tell them the letter doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, is it they just go by tier 3 now?
Well, it's
Tier 3 junior.
Junior hockey. It's not
Yeah.
A. There's no ABC.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's a whole.
Yeah.
I don't even want to get into that.
But that's part of the manipulation and recruitment.
And the money. Yeah, the money.
So, and that's the whole thing. That could be a whole different day for a topic, but I just love the whole junior experience in the United States, how it used to be junior A, B, and C, and there was real junior A, and people with money started complaining, my son didn't make it. But
we've gone as long as we've ever gone on a show so far. Now
I might need to bleep out some names when I go back to it now that I'm like cooled down.
I honestly don't think so. But yeah, we had an intermission where one of us, me, the old man, had to go use the facilities. But I do want to end with this. Couple things. One right off the bat though is as I told John last night, because we had, as I said, we had another thing planned tonight, which would have been fun. I was not necessarily in the mood for fun at this point. I've been invited to a few things from people that know what's going on locally, and I just said, you know what, I kind of want to be alone. I just need to get my thoughts together because I'm not. I guess there's three things I want to talk about. I'll start with the one is being able. I mean, John's not a therapist by any stretch. In fact, I wouldn't pay him a penny to be my therapist. But
he'll invoice me.
Yeah, but I will say, joking aside, getting to talk about it is huge, and it's been a really shit week. And unfortunately, it's not new to me, but it doesn't get any easier. In fact, in some ways, it gets harder as I get older. As I've said many times on here, I turned 50 this season. I mean, John and I, as hockey guys, it's not years, it's seasons. So this season in February, I will turn 50. The last thing I thought I'd be dealing with at this age was the same shit I've been dealing with for a long time.
Well, this, in your defense, it's such a that's what I was so pissed off about, and I'm like a dog with a bone with this one because it's a successful season so far as what the team is doing, and it's just it's out of nowhere.
Yeah, like I said, I knew things weren't perfect. I mean, that was never a secret. I did not know that this was going to be one of the remedies. So it's been a real shit week. I'll be happy to see it'll be bittersweet, I should say, to see the boys tomorrow again, Thursday. This will come out Friday, so I will have seen them by the time you guys see this, but it'll be bittersweet to see them knowing it's going to be the last time I'm on the ice with them in a practice, possibly ever, for sure, probably for this season. And that's going to suck because as much as I'm the hard ass coach and I, can be a prick at times, I love those guys. I hope they understand, what my purpose is as their coach and respect me and care. I think they do. The other side of it too is I've never, other than when I was a very young kid and my parents were going through their divorce, I was just literally, I don't even know if I was a teenager yet. I can't remember what year it was when that all happened, but I went to some counseling back then because I was forced to as a kid and I thought it was nuts. I don't do the therapy thing, and that's not to say I probably should. I probably should do it. I think I probably should, but there's a part of me, and I think you hinted at this a bit too, that I've dealt with all this so much in my life that it just kind of almost feels second nature. I'm like, I just roll with it. I'll have the shitty times like this week, and it might even last a little longer than this week, and then I'll come out the other side. But I think what I would say to people is don't rely on that happening, because it may not. And for me, I might, if this drags on any longer with where my head's at, and I already feel better tonight. Like I said, just getting to talk about it, I already feel better about it. But perhaps, in a few days or few weeks, if this is still kind of where I'm laying, I mean, I'm always going to be upset about it. But if I'm really in a mental state where it's that bad, then, I'm will be the first to say I definitely need to talk to somebody. But for me, it's always been talking to friends and family, which has helped. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's as good a therapy as any if you've got the right people surrounding you, which I'm grateful to have with you and Jeremy and my buddy Pico, who I called the other day about it, and Tyler, who we've had on here. He was one of the first people I talked to about it. He was gutted because I was actually going to go see him this weekend in Chicago, and I was like, dude, I'm not going to make it. And I didn't tell him why at first. I was like, I'm just not going to make it. And then I finally told him, I was like, look, I'm not in a good mental state. And frankly, at this point, because of what's happened, I can't afford the trip. So
now you got to save every damn dollar.
I got to save every penny. I can't go up to see him and go see his brother and his sister-in-law's play, which I was really looking forward to, but that's fine. I mean, there are more important things in the world right now. And that's me getting my head right, getting my thoughts right, and figuring out what's next. So, yeah.
Well, to pump your tires here, Cookie, which is always an uncomfortable thing with us.
No, you guys are good at pumping my tires. I suck at pumping yours, so you guys can fuck off.
I've coached. I've known you for a long time. I've coached with you, not as long as I've known you, but like it's kind of an attest to the respect you have for somebody. It's like we've only really coached together minimally of all the time we've known each other.
3 years, basically.
Yeah. And so
not even 3, 2.5.
Yeah. And it's one of those situations where
actually, no, 1.5.
1.5, yeah, because it was only half a year at the Promise.
Yeah.
And what's funny? I always do that too. I always tell people I was there for 2 years, and then I'm like,
no,
wait.
I was thinking, for some stupid reason, I was thinking New Mexico was 2 years. That's where I was getting the extra year.
No, I would have hung myself long before if it was there in New Mexico 2 years. That's a bad joke. I'm going to edit that one out.
For what we're talking about, that's a terrible joke.
Yeah, real bad. That's me, though. But what's funny is like that's how I deal with a lot of stuff. It's like my dark humor goes. I know I don't mean it, but in certain situations, so people are like,
yeah.
Crap. But I've known you for a long time, and you said something that is the very reason you come out on the other end of it is I always joke about how like my career came to an abrupt end because I was never the skilled guy. I was the guy that was known it was going to work harder than everybody, which is why I got beat up a lot, which is why I got hurt a lot. Cause you always talk about the guys in hockey. They'll go to the areas nobody else will. They have the most respect on the team, but they're not around very long. That was my work ethic, but you have that work ethic where it's a funny thing where I could see teams that you used to be with for a while when they were still around, still using your templates, still using your style. And whenever there's a flyer or promotion goes up, I can identify your work from a mile away. And that's the other thing why I got so mad about this. It's like, you're not just an assistant coach that showed up to practice in games. The amount of admin work you were doing to maintain the business of the team, because as great of a coach and a marketer as Jeremy is, or networker as Jeremy is, that's not his strong suit. And, you keep working hard, and it's an insulting thing. And I know you're trying to remain as cool and as optimistic about it, but fuck it. It sucks to see somebody work so fucking hard for something, for literally the only non-varsity sport the school has that makes any noise. Like I said before, the school uses you guys for promotions and stuff all the time for the athletics department. And, you work your ass off, and you deserve more than that. But at the same time, this is all I know. You're going to have your few days where it's kind of the joke, the woe is me joke. And then you're going to get pissed. And then it's the nose to the grindstone again. Also, everybody, stop being selfish and subscribe to the page.
It's literally the levels of grief.
Yeah, it's Cookie's levels of grief.
Yeah.
but I said levels of grease. But and and that's a very different way of like I reached my point where I had to get help because I don't have family. You and Jeremy are literally the closest friends I have, and I barely really talk to Jeremy, but it's mostly you. And I have some other friends that I'm.
Jeremy doesn't answer a phone.
Yeah, that's Jeremy's got it in his hand all day, his phone. But but I have other close friends, but you're the one person who's seen, like we joked about it last episode, like you've seen two different versions of me over the years. And I reached that point where it's like, I don't have any. My mom and dad are both dead. I don't have any brothers or sisters. And so I had to fix it on my own. It doesn't mean it doesn't come with times or it gets hard and I get really down. I don't think there's ever a clear light at the end of the tunnel. It's always work. It's always hard work. And you have your different ways of dealing with it. And while we were telling our stories and the way it just kind of wears on you and can affect your mental health, I think, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, I think one of the things you were saying by expressing how you handle it is everybody's got their own method. And you're going to use that method if it works for you. But if there's a time where it stops working, that's when you can make a change. And I'm a big proponent of therapy because that's all I had. That was the only option I had, and it truly saved my life. Cookies, I've met Cookie's family. Obviously, I spent a lot of time at Cookie's house. I owe his mom like $100 for hockey gloves.
My mom still asks about those gloves.
Yeah, I owe Cookie's mom like $100 for gloves. I didn't have a car, but somehow I was trying to get gloves. But it was always they're extremely welcoming people. It was always great being there. I can't tell you how many times I ate myself to a coma.
Mom can cook.
Just being there, and that's what works for him. But if there's a time where he needs something different, he knows what it is. And I think that's just I think the stories are examples of these are things we went through, and here's what happened and how we pulled through. And it's okay to reflect on your stories even if they're bad, because maybe you'll learn something about yourself of how you handled it before, or maybe it'll motivate you to say, okay, this is the change I need to make.
In some ways, I would argue it's even more important because, again, it goes back. We want to bring sports back into it. You learn more from the losses than you do from the wins. It's the same thing in life. If, you're going to learn more from the downside. Celebrate the good times. Figure out why they were the good times. But when they're not the good times, you need to figure out why they weren't the good times as well and learn from that.
Yeah, I mean, just don't tell that to the Stars Elite program.
Yeah,
they'll wipe you off the face of the earth.
And I'll finish with this. I'm not saying, I'm sure a professional. I was about to say something like, especially that wants my money, but I would hope not to go there. But I'm sure a professional would say, my way is not necessarily the best way because I have no doubt there are things I'm holding in and harboring and all this stuff. But ex relationships might say the same as well. Let's be honest, because women are way smarter than we are, and they know these things.
I can't even rip on you for that because I don't even want to go down that plank. Let me tell you.
Yeah, my ex, who I care deeply about, and I'm glad she's happy now. But I'm sure she would be like, "Yep,
yeah,
you don't know shit."
You know what though? Acknowledging it's also a big fucking
yeah, for sure. So get the help you can in whatever way you can, which works best for you is kind of where I would finish with this. And it's like I said, just even talking about it tonight as we were coming on, and by the time anybody watches this will already be posted. I was actually working on a little post about it. That's why my glasses just lit up because I'm looking at it again.
Your energy is 100% different.
Yeah, I feel better just talking about it. The other thing I made sure I didn't do, and I think this is, again, this could be a whole other conversation. I have not had and I joked with John earlier, I was going to go make another drink. These are literally just Cokes. I have not had a drop of alcohol since this all went down. I didn't want to go down that route. I told Jeremy the other day, we were talking about something, and I started designing jerseys just for the hell of it. And I was blowing his phone up. He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Dude, I'm avoiding the liquor cabinet right now."
You were sending me some of those jerseys.
Yeah, I'm avoiding the liquor cabinet right now because this would be a time when a person that isn't in a good state of mind would start drinking themselves into oblivion, and I just
liquid crutch.
Yeah, and I wasn't going to do that. So I've intentionally, and again, I'm I'm not a sober person as far as not drinking by any means, but this week I am, just to kind of make sure I'm in the right state of mind moving forward. So
the smart decision on that. And that's self-awareness, which is a good thing too. But yeah, you know, if anything, like we always say, if these stories can kind of help one person, it doesn't even have to be in coaching.
no, 'cause these are life lessons for sure.
Yeah, coaching was basically the setting. You know what I mean? And as much as we say, oh, this and this was bad, I have a lot to thank for it, and like obviously some of my closest friendships are because of that. And you know, at the end of the day, I have no problem allowing myself to be vulnerable, to share the stuff that had happened to me, because Cookie will tell you, I admit it all the time. Before I sought help, and even sometimes currently, I was a true asshole, and I just didn't know how I was being.
I'm not trying to make light of that by any means, but you didn't have to tell me that. Like I mean, I saw it firsthand. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and you know, I just needed someone to say, "Oh, this and this and this is why you're acting out, and this was all wrong." And I'm like, "Oh shit, it was wrong."
Yeah.
We joked about the Catholic school thing, and I was like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to get the crap beat out of me," but you know, it's you just kind of know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know, and so it doesn't matter how old you are. It's never too late to learn more about yourself, and it's a cheesy saying, but it's so true. And when you say it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
And it's okay to talk to people. And it's, you know, since I really started doing those kind of things, I think Cookie has seen it in the whole progression of it. Is I dove headfirst into it because I immediately realized the importance. And now it's a big part of almost everything I do. And I still go through the shitty days. I still go through times where I get anxious.
Yeah.
And so,
well, you mentioned it. I posted it today. You talked about it on an episode previous, and they're not a sponsor of ours, but it's a pretty simple process, and you know more about them than I do. But you know, BetterHelp, sorry.
BetterHelp, yep.
BetterHelp is a really, and I see it on a lot of other YouTube sites, and there's a reason for that. And it's not just about getting a sponsor; it's because they're doing it the right way. So BetterHelp's a good place to go. Like I said, they don't sponsor us by any means, but you know, if we can. And they may not be this resource for you, but it's a good starting point for sure. If you want to find something locally, especially if you're, you know, like me, you work at a university, although I can't really say I work there anymore. I'm more a volunteer, but you know, there are resources at schools.
You gotta get approved first.
Oh God. Yeah. But there are resources out there. BetterHelp is just a pretty easy one online. And like I said, I feel like I'm doing a commercial for them and they're not even a sponsor, but I don't care because it's important. So
important.
Yeah.
It's you get to try it out, you get to see what fits, you get to see what feels good for you. And you know, that's the thing, is you're not going to get better unless you're comfortable with whom you're talking to. So, you know, give it a shot and, you know, let it help you in the best way possible. So, while our sports nights and sports conversations are a little bit more lighter and fun than this, it's still an important thing to talk about. So I am glad that we did. When Cookie messaged me saying we need to do a mental health one, I was like, yes. Like, not even a second thought. Honestly, I'm okay not learning about cricket right now.
We'll bring up cricket next week.
God damn it. But, you know, I talked to somebody we're going to have on the show. We got more people we're going to have in to learn more about different sports worlds, and then our other shows.
Yeah, we haven't had a guest in a while. We'll get guests back here soon.
You know, and that comes from just the hellacious
start
of the season.
My schedule just opened a bit.
A little bit, but hopefully it closes back up though, honestly. And
fuck.
Cookie's on this just ultimate yo-yo.
Yeah.
But we appreciate everybody hanging in there and listening. We know it was a longer one, but again, hopefully our stories can help you guys out. And we'll be back at it. We'll be back at it Tuesday and Friday. This will come out on Friday as well. And the only fun little irony thing is, while Cookie was talking about coaching swimming out there in Pikes Peak, tomorrow we got the Bruins in town for a preseason game.
Tell Sway I said hi, and then I want to get. Actually, I do want to get in touch with him. So do you. Well, we'll talk about that after the show.
I told you when I saw him when the team was coming in.
No, we do. I do want to get in touch with him, and I'll explain why to you after the show because it's not show related. Well, it sort of is, but
it will be. And let me tell you, we got a pretty fun thing we're planning, and we'll lay it all out once we get more information.
I put that thing up on a shared file. I don't know if you saw it yet.
I already, it's actually already open on my screen.
Okay, perfect.
So, but we appreciate everybody listening. Drop your thoughts, drop your comments. Obviously, like and subscribe. Please subscribe. The numbers are going up a little bit again. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Becky.
Yeah, thank you, Becky. Becky's the person we'll get back as well. And we haven't
had Adam on in a while. Oh,
he keeps asking.
He's on podcaster bait right now as we're doing this one.
Well, that ended a while ago.
Oh, did it? I was gonna joke with you as we started, because he started a little bit after us, to say, should we just like tune into theirs real quick and not tell him?
He messaged me. He's like, "Get the hell in here!" And I'm like, "Where?" And I totally forgot it was even happening.
Yeah,
I got home later than usual too. So.
Yeah, no, that's all.
But we appreciate you guys. We appreciate the continued support.
Yeah, it's a long one tonight, but it was something that needed to happen. So
we didn't freeze as much.
No.
And you'll notice I left the freezes in on Tuesday. So
I did.
So, but again, thank you guys again.
Thank you guys.